Well, hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to week number 2 of the NZ Esports HyperFibre League Porsche Cup racing for the best and brightest of New Zealand's sim racing stars. And race after round 1 was actually just a phenomenal set of 2 races, and the feature, the reverse grids, all of it came together. It was just a solid showcase last week.
Yeah, certainly was. Round 2 of the NZ Esports HyperFibre League, right here from the Hockenheim Ring. We're looking forward to this particular round, Scott. Road America last week absolutely went off. Some fantastic racing and very clean driving from pretty much the whole field. I'm looking forward to hopefully more of the same here tonight. Some of Kiwiland's best in the sim racing space, competing for a total prize pool of over 5,000 New Zealand dollars worth of prizes and prize money. And looking forward to seeing who will start on pole for this, who's going to grab the round win, because it's certainly been one of the most pleasurable experiences in my sim racing commentary this year, getting this series off the board.
Yeah, so a little bit about the format for tonight. Slightly different compared to last week. We're still looking at lap numbers, and it's going to be the lap numbers are going to be changing each and every week. We're going to have 15 lap race to kick us off. We were 12 laps last week, 15 laps this week. For the heat race, that'll invert the top 12. We'll then re-rack them and go again for a 27 lap feature race. Again, Porsche 992 Cup action. No compulsory pit stops, no fast repairs, fixed setup racing as well. What I like about, I'm always a big one for fixed setup racing, just personally. I like being on the same machinery as everyone else is. You know what the big difference is then? It's the driver. And that always drives me to want to compete.
Yeah, indeed. Every single driver here driving the exact same car. They can obviously make a few changes on board and in the setup, but aside from that, you're all driving the same thing. And it really does come down to your skills as a driver. And God knows you need them around a track like the Hockenheim Ring. Very challenging piece of racetrack this. It's known most often as host of the German Grand Prix in Formula 1, and it's been through a few changes over the years, but it is a very challenging track that should provide some good racing tonight.
Yeah, 4.5 kilometers worth of just really, really interesting stuff. I love the aspect of getting that big toe down into the hairpin. I cannot tell you the number of times I've seen a 4 wide moment and not end in tears down at the hairpin, which it just creates something, all right? That's the big thing about Hockenheim. Really, really open run to the hairpin, flat out, get the double toe, get the triple toe, look to be aggressive. And because the road's so wide and the hairpin's so sharp down there, you've got so much opportunity to decide what you want to do, both on defense and offense. You'll see that'll be a big, big feature of our racing here tonight. Talking about the racing and the evening at large, I want to talk about our round sponsor as we get into things nice and early on. Speednation going to be bringing us the round sponsor here tonight. http://speednation.co.nz, or join them over on facebook.com/speednations. That's Speednations with Speednation NZ. So with the NZ on the end. Auckland-based supplier of brands like Moser, Thrustmaster, Next Level Racing, Turtle Beach, Butt Kicker, and many, many more, created out of a passion for good quality simulations racing store. They've got an awesome showroom, a wide range of gear on display, can be curated to your requests as well. Custom simulation solutions tailored to your needs and on-site installs as well within Auckland. Pride themselves in delivering top-level customer service that will leave you grinning from ear to ear. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting a virtual racing journey, we've all got to start somewhere. Strap yourselves in and get ready for the ride of a lifetime. Sim racing is going to offer you a huge journey, and Speed Nations are there to bring you right through it. They carry a large range of in-flight flight simulation gear as well, also from Moser and Thrustmaster. I know I do love myself a good fly around in a number of space sims, actually, that I've always been wanting my HOTAS for, but they've got over 8 years of experience in sim racing and more, and everything is stocked locally. No wait time, no drop shipping nonsense. They've even got their newsletter as well. You can get exclusive sale deals for all the newsletter subscribers. It'll go live tomorrow on the 27th of September. So if you want to get in touch with the newsletter, keep up to date with the latest of the deals. For more information, head to speednation.co.nz/pages/about-us. That's our round sponsor for tonight. Speednation, big supporter here of the NZ Esports HyperFibre League. We can't do it without the people that support us, Reese, and there's the prize pool and everything that we're able to put on here is as a one huge, and again it comes to us with the support of those sponsors. We said MLP last week, gave them a huge rap because they do such a good job. And Speednation, again, I've heard so many good things because again, we both have a multitude of sim racing friends on both sides of the ditch, and I always hear good things about Speednations.
Yeah, indeed. Speednation's also providing a $300 store voucher for the round winner tonight, as well as a $50 Speednation voucher and gaming floor mat giveaway for viewers of this stream. We'll find out more about that later on. But for now, we'll keep an eye on the format for tonight. As you mentioned, it's a 15-minute open qualifying session that's going to be coming up shortly. Drivers will have unlimited laps there. And essentially, it's just 2 sprint races. Well, there is a sprint and a feature, but they're both pretty quick races around this place. 15 laps for race 1, 27 laps for race 2, and the top 12 from race 1 will be inverted for the start of race 2. Last round at Road America, we saw largely the same people rise to the top in the reverse grid race. I'm wondering if it's going to be a little bit more difficult here, with it being comparatively a much twistier track than Road America, and a lot more potential for chaos with such heavy braking zones around here.
Yeah, particularly the arena section in the last part of the circuit as well. It's very difficult to get an overtake done. You just kind of can't get enough speed up, and with the downforce levels that are on offer as you sort of come down through 11 and back into the arena section to finish it off, it's very difficult. If you get alongside, mistakes happen from a driver ahead, you can absolutely pull the pass off, but you're basically relying on the moment to come from the driver ahead. But once you're there, you can certainly race 2x2 through the final sector. No problem. Very, very difficult to do, and famously, don't forget that moment in the rain a couple of years ago from F1's Race of the Decade, where Sebastian Vettel bowled a wide and effectively ended his shot at a race victory when he sat so very, very comfortably in a race-winning position. This track just creates drama, doesn't it? Because again, overtaking opportunities. I love an extended braking zone at the end of a long straight. And again, the biggest bonus is the amount of runoff on the outside of it and how wide the track is at that point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be going into a lot of detail regarding the track as of shortly. But for now, let's hear for a moment from our round sponsor, Speednation. Waffle until you're ready. Let us know.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gents, and thank you for watching along with support for our sponsors from Speed Nations as well. So we're going to be preparing to run through our illustrious track guide, Reese, but this circuit, it's tough, it's challenging, and it offers a lot of different elements.
Oh, it certainly does. Speednation, of course, providing us with the track preview video. Short start, finish straight here. This is the Aston Martin GT4 safety car we'll be using tonight. Going through turn 1, very harsh curbs on entry and the exit, and you've got to be careful not to run too far beyond them, otherwise you'll get an off track. There's a big overtaking opportunity here at turn 2. This little bend to the right is turn 3. Going into turn 4, you can be flat out on the exit in the Porsche Cup, but there's a big opportunity for you to cut back and slipstream as well down through Parabolica. This is turn 5 we're going through at the moment. Completely flat out, highest speeds on the circuit being reached here, right into the braking zone for the slowest corner on the track, the turn 6 hairpin. You go basically 180 degrees around this at a very slow speed, and traction is paramount on the exit. Just after that, you go through a flat-out kink. This is going to be one of the places where if you're side by side, you've got to sort yourself out before you get into the braking zone for what is called the Mercedes grandstand section, and you have to be careful out of the exit of this corner here. It's easy to hit that curb as you just saw, and a very harsh curb on the exit as well. The track widens at this point, so it's a good opportunity to go side by side coming into the stadium section here. You can use all of that curb on the exit. Banked hairpin here at turn 12. It's a very interesting corner indeed. You can use the outside if need be. You can be flat out through these kinks, but you need to get on the brakes instantly for the penultimate corner. The drag strip is there on the outside. Don't run into that. And the final corner is a bit faster than it looks. So you can carry a lot of power there, but beware of oversteer on the exit. It's a challenging track, the Hockenheim Ring, and really happy to be racing here tonight.
Yeah, very challenging indeed, and like I said, the arena, the stadium section to finish the lap, that last corner, the last two corners in fact, because it's nearly two corners that sort of blend into one with the double apex as well, doubles back, it's a challenging little section because you can pick up the throttle a little bit too early, you can rotate the car on the rear, you can also understeer the car if you pick up the throttle in the incorrect manner as well, and drift out, pick yourself up a little bit of grass on the outside. The run into turn 1 though, very, very challenging, particularly on lap 1 race. Getting that standing start right, and then it's a short run down to turn 1. You've sometimes got to use a lot of that runoff area all the way on the left-hand side of the track, but you've also got to try and cut the curb on the inside. It's very, I always feel claustrophobic when I'm starting a race here.
Oh, and Ewan Baker will be feeling a bit claustrophobic there at the exit of turn 1. That's exactly what I was talking about in the track preview. You hit that curb on the inside of the fast kink of turn 1, and these Porsche Cup cars don't have as sophisticated a suspension as your dedicated GT3 race cars do, for example, so you need to be careful with how you hit the curbs around here. It can really unsettle the car.
Yeah, but turn 1, if you're not taking that inside curb, you're losing lap time, so you've definitely got to attack it, definitely got to fly at the car and have a crack. I can tell you we're only a couple minutes away from jumping into our qualifying session for this evening. Hugo Allen's just running it back out on the track as well, so I think he's about to be doing a qualifying sim. So we'll start to see a few more times of his hop through to the top of the timing sheets at the moment. Ewan Baker leads the way, which is good for him. Wasn't quite quick enough last week and needed to do some work, but I think he's walked away and certainly done that and improved his time. So, look, great improvement from Ewan Baker, and now there'll be a huge opportunity for him to take that forward in the race as well.
Yeah, Hugo just missing out on the round victory from Road America last round. Is his very close rival Antal Sabo was taking some fantastic runs in the second race. Hugo Allen winning the first at Road America, but there's more points on offer for race 2, so arguably your finishing position in that race is more important. Part of that is obviously getting yourself on pole position for race 1 and trying your best to execute it. If you win race 1, you start 12th for race 2. You want to concentrate on working your way through the field. So drivers that are brave on the brakes, drivers that are able to get moves done cleanly, will rise to the fore. Allen, of course, being one of them. And we know from last round, he and Antal, they like to have a hard race between them.
Yeah, swapping back multiple times throughout the course of the race as well, looking after the tyre. They did talk about protecting the tyres. Around here, you're definitely going to be dealing with a little bit more issues in the rear end. Right, so we're going to jump and have a quick look at what the current championship points look like after round number 1. And it was Antal Sabo who took the championship lead, but it's only by a single point between himself and Corey Lazarus. Hugo Allen didn't quite get back to where he needed to in race number 2, and that was the critical factor for him, dropping in behind Corey Lazarus. Lazarus swapped his way into P2 in the championship. For Hugo Allen, could it be a little bit of redemption here tonight? He'll be looking for a feature race win from Xavier Simmons. Stephen McCartan had a phenomenal race 1, but it was race 2 where he found the issues, and now he's a little bit on the back foot. Look at how tight the championship points are, though, from 7th all the way through to 10th. It's going to be an incredibly tight battle deep inside that top 10 race.
Yeah, certainly is. Just outside the top 10, James Jordan, he had great potential at round one, but the results just didn't go his way. Both James and Dylan Jordan are both well up in the practice standings for this second round. Looking for a bit more from Cameron Dance as well. We know how quick he is. We've commentated many a race with him running at or near the front. He'll be hoping that Road America was just a blip on these finals in this tournament for the NZ Esports HyperFibre League, and looking for more from Rob Henry as well, another one of the Kiwi sim racing squad. He is definitely fast. He has a lot to bring to the table, but just couldn't quite put it all on the plate at round one. So for the time being, we have plenty to come here tonight. Just a couple minutes left in practice before we get into MRP qualifying, and as I mentioned, there's going to be a $60 MRP store voucher for the pole position winner. So makes sense that drivers are out there at the moment, Scott, doing those qualifying sims. They want to get their best laps on the board because there is a prize at stake.
Yeah, there is, and it's it's a big opportunity. I think this is one of those tracks where you certainly want to start up front as well. If you have a poor qualifying performance, you shuffle back. Yeah, you can overtake, but there's really only two major overtaking opportunities on the lap, and it's very easy to defend it. But it's not very easy to defend, but there are a lot of defensive options at both of them. So, yeah, look, Man Racing Products prize for pole position as well, very important. But I think it's also setting yourself up. That's the big key, because you don't want to be starting 10th when you were good enough to be perhaps inside the front two rows. That's going to be the big key. So the banker, sure, absolutely get a lap time down that's representative, but yeah, you need to be making sure that you set your best laps and best foot forward. And don't forget Antel Sabo last week as well, setting the pole, what was it, P2 lap within the final minute of the qualifying session as well. So keep your eyes on that one.
Yeah, there's going to be laps being set all through the qualifying session. It's not just a case of one and done, you have everybody out on track at the same time, trying to negotiate their real estate, their space on the track. You don't want to be running into someone on your qualifying lap. It'll just be costing you time. So, obviously you'll be looking forward to those last few minutes when most of the drivers are done with their ultimate laps for the session, and that can be your chance to get it done. But I think another thing we'll have to think about is the weather. It's changeable weather now in iRacing. Rain is enabled finally after many years of it being a dry weather only simulation, and the forecast is looking interesting. We're probably going to be seeing some rain for race 2 potentially. We'll have to wait and see on that one. There's always potential for clouds in Germany.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing a 1% chance of rain a little bit later on in sim, but definitely the clouds cover is going to come over. So 1% chance is greater than 0, but I was looking at the forecast. I think you're right. I think there is a greater than 1% forecast. Anything necessarily could happen. Right, time for qualifying, and who is going to win themselves the Man Racing Products pole position will be the question. Ewan Baker top the timing sheets in terms of practice. The other driver's going to get out there and try and get some heat into those tyres. You're not going to see flying laps, really the best times in the session until lap 2, lap 3 on the tyres, and it's going to be the two Jordans who are leading us away in terms of qualifying.
All right, now this is the point where the drivers will be eking out that space, and as highlighted, I think thinking back to Formula 1 of 2019, that was really what set in my mind the importance of keeping the space in qualifying. You want to get a slipstream down these long straights. That can give you a bit of time. But through the twistier sections of the circuit, if you're racing right up with a whole pack of cars trying to set their own lap times, it might just cost you time. So I think drivers like the number 37 here have the right idea. They're obviously getting set up for their qualifying laps, but they're making sure that they have adequate space around them to focus on their own lap.
Yeah, and it's just making sure you're obviously not tripped up. And one of the big things, I like backing it up. I like backing all the way off, and I like being in control of who I get to drive around. So some of these guys like to charge out and put them all on the rearview mirror, and some of them you'll see back it up and go in the opposite direction. And a little bit of intel on the two Jordans that are at the front end of the qualifying queue. Twin brothers, in fact. So if that's not motivation, I don't know what is. No, there is not a brother in the world who would like to come second to their brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Dylan is the first across the line to start his first qualifying lap. James is just behind him there, and Ewan Baker joining his compatriots there, right up at the front of this queue. Looks like a clean lap so far from Dylan Jordan, and turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 all negotiated beautifully. But this is the point in the lap where things start to get serious. It's all well and good if you've nailed the opening corners, but if you have a lock up here at the hairpin, it's basically the entire lap ruined. Fortunately for Dylan, he nails the apex.
Yeah, that's the big key. Make sure that you do get the car pulled up, you get the car pitched in. Good drive back out the other side. And he's looking to try and set a reasonable run down the Mercedes Arena section as well. Pulls it up. You can use all of the road all the way out to the right-hand side, but the problem is you've got to then bring the car all the way back to the left, and just narrowing up the approach as you come out of the Mercedes Arena into the stadium section, sometimes the better way to go.
Back on the brakes again. Very early turn in for the stadium corner itself. It's banked, so you can take the outside line if you need to, but I think the inside line will be a bit faster in these Porsche Cup cars. And now through the final corner, get on the power. Try and use as much curb as you dare on the exit, but be careful of the oversteer. And our first lap time on the board is going to be a 1 minute 40.903. Now that's already been beaten by Ewan Baker, who takes provisional pole, but we're expecting lap times sort of in the low 1 minute 40 range for the ultimate time for pole position.
Yeah, I'm actually expecting, I reckon they can get underneath that. I reckon they can get down into the 39. So you're going to see that progress as the session does progress. The big key, remember, get yourself settled in. Hugo Allen goes out and really opts to look after the tyres as he looks for a little bit of clear track space. Sets himself for 46.434. As does Corey Lazarus. Very easy on the outlap. And Lazarus looks like he might have picked up an off track as well. So I think he's going to back that one up and focus on lap number 3 as they're all trying to bring the tyres in. Keeping an eye on Sam Sproul at the moment in the midst of traffic. Intel Sabo was the first of our big hitters from last round that's gone out for a very quick lap, 41.120, so he's off by a fair way at this point in time.
Yeah, fair little bit of a ways off indeed, and he's still heating up his tyres there, so he's got a lot of potential to make his way forward here. You know, the Porsche Cup, the tyres start pretty much stone cold, close to ambient temperature really, so you need to wait for a couple of laps for them to really come into their own. Rob Henry will have oh no, he's had a bit of a problem there at the second last corner, off into the drag strip, and just avoids getting it into the tyre bundles. He could reset to the pits from this point on, but I think it's a good idea for him to just stay out there because those tyres still are not performing at their best. Got to wait for them to come up to temp.
Yeah, so we'll be working on that now at the moment. And Rob Henry's going to come through and set himself another lap time as well. Gets down into 41.271's his valid lap time for now. And Stefan McCartan's managed to go just a hair quicker as well, 40.560. Ewan Baker's gotten an eclipse at the time that he set the practice session. Gets down very, very close to the 1 minute 39s of 40.007. So only 0.07 of a second away from dipping into the 1 minute 39s. Cleland's going to jump a fair way up. Remember, started towards the front end and led a very significant portion of the race in the feature last time out. Hugo Allen again just bringing those tyres in nice and gently, not looking to overwork them on lap number 2 as well. So a lot of patience, shorter lap time than we had last week as well, which means you do have the option to get that extra lap of qualifying in, which means there's not as much risk that comes with taking a little bit of time off to bring the tyres in appropriately at the start of this session too.
Yeah, Road America was a much longer circuit, both in length and in total time taken to complete a lap. So it was quite difficult for the drivers to get as many laps in as they wanted. It was also a track with very long straights and not as many corners. There's plenty more opportunity to heat up the tyres around here. In terms of the conditions, the track is quite cool. Road America, to my memory, was a bit warmer at about 26 to 30 degrees Celsius. We are, of course, in Germany. It's a little bit cooler, so we'll see those tyres stay in their optimum range a little bit longer, I would imagine. And I think tyre wear, especially on the left-hand side, isn't going to be as much of a problem here because we are working those right-side tyres just as hard.
Yeah, the two cutouts effectively do that job quite well. Still looking at the moment, I think this will probably be the lap that they'll all start to push. So the front three that we're sort of trying to keep an eye on, Corey Lazarus is one of those drivers we'll be looking for. Sabo's just starting a flying lap at the moment, goes through and sets a 40.117 on his second, I believe his third flying lap. So he's managed to bring those tyres into where he's very, very confident to push on with them at the moment, though. Still a tenth of a second away from getting to Ewan Baker. Ewan Baker will be the first of our drivers to jump down to the 1 minute 39.924 for Ewan. So he, again, pushes that little bit further out. Dylan Jordan still managing to hang on to third place at the moment. And 40.4 neat for him. McCartan's still sitting in fourth, and Hamish Clellan's managed to hang on to fifth. Everyone else at the moment outside the 41s are just struggling a little bit to bring tyres and the cars to them, but reasonable pace. It looks very strong. I tell you what, that midfield sort of from about 7th, 8th place on backwards, there is thousandths of a second separating some of those margins.
Yeah, certainly. Luke Bradley and James Jordan, they're only separated by about 2.5 hundredths of a second, as Sam Sproul meanwhile puts the 606 into 4th place, now the top of the blackout OPR cars. So a good job from him. And Hugo Allen finally puts in a solid lap time, 139.93, and that is only a hundredth slower than Ewan Baker's time at the front of the field. So I think we're going to be seeing pole position hotly contested.
Yeah, and we are now past the 2/3 mark on this session as well. Sorry, just coming up on the 2/3 mark on this session. Remember, hard cut at the end of qualifying, so they've left it a little bit late, these guys, but they have generated enough heat, enough temperature into the tyres. I'll tell you what, 938 now, 0.002 of a second for second place on the grid. Sabo manages to set a 938 compared to Hugo Allen's 936. So there's nothing in it on that second row of the grid. And now they've got the temperature in the tyres. The second charge lap just might be where they set that valid lap time. Corey Lazarus still hasn't been able to get the time valid. Picked up an off track somewhere through the lap on his 4th attempt at a qualifying time. So it is all coming together at the pointy end of the field. And it's going to get closer. I think, again, a lot of those drivers, when we were talking a few moments ago, there was a fair few of them outside the 1 minute 40s. We're just over in the 41s. We had about 4 drivers in 1 minute 41 flat. Well, a lot of them have now shifted that marker down to the 140.8. I can tell you there are 4 drivers 140.8. They're all exceptionally close together. Somebody else has just gone ahead and jumped up. I think it might have been James Jordan. Indeed, it was 40.618. So again, margins are coming down, as are the lap times.
Here's Cameron Dance, meanwhile, negotiating a very tight left-hander at the Mercedes grandstand, and it's so difficult to manage your throttle here on the exit. You can take that flat out on the exit, but it's so difficult to do. If you get on the power a bit too early, you just induce understeer. You see how he's using all of the curb and then some coming into the stadium section. This track has many curbs around it where you have to put the whole car over it, but they are pretty rough curbs, and we've seen how much these cars dislike being thrown around over those curbs. But like you said earlier, Scott, that's what you need for lap time. Dance then through the final turn, and he's absolutely nailing every single curb there. I think just avoided the off track, and he'll set a 1 minute 42.1. That is not his quickest. He's actually, it looks like, gotten an off track on that lap somewhere. It didn't officially count for a lap time improvement.
Yeah, so now he's going to press on this next lap time as well. As Hugo Allen's in the middle sectors of the lap now as well. looking to try and push on and see if he can't improve. And the predicted lap time has this down on the 38. So this is going to be a barnstorming time if he can get it set up, run down through to turn number 11 at the moment. And he's gone purple in terms of the first couple of sectors. So very quick this one from Hugo Allen. It's going to have to be a response from Antal Sabo. But if this is a 38, he is going to wipe a ton of time. There we go. That's a lot better. I was thinking maybe mid-39s is probably an appropriate lap time as it starts to equalize. Final corner now. He'll try and get the drive out the other side. Short run to the line now as he comes up on the gantry. What's it going to be? Predicted for a 39.7 is a 39.7. 7.23 moves to the front row and into pole position.
What a lovely lap that was from Hugo Allen, and you see how confident he was through turn 1 just then. I think that's a big part of why that lap time's so quick. I think what a lot of the drivers might be missing is confidence over the curbs, because, you know, sometimes you're just not sure what the car's going to do, especially in a suspension like these Porsche Cup cars have. So we'll see what Hugo Allen can do to keep that pole position. A margin of 0.2 is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but I think we're going to be seeing some big improvements here in the last 2 minutes. We just saw one from Stefan McCartan, the number 51 now into P5. Xavier Simmons, meanwhile, he's looking for a bit more improvement here. Currently 8th, and he only needs to make up 0.08 of a second in order to get past Dylan Jordan for P7. So that predicted lap, of course, it is looking like a barnstormer, as Scott said on the lap with Hugo Allen, but we'll see that get up into the 39.40 range as he gets to the end. Very smooth on the way in for Simmons, a little bit of oversteer on the exit.
So you'll build towards the back half of the lap into the stadium section down here. As he'll tip it in down at turn number 11. This is so critical to lap time. You've got to carry speed in here. You've got to use the curbing on the left-hand side. The car can bounce and scramble all over that. Can bottom out too. You can lose all downforce. Gets to the hairpin. And he'll start to turn it back. 2 more corners now. He'll pitch it back to the right here. Keep it online. Flow the speed in. Carry it all the way to the curb. If you don't, again, lap time going by the wayside. Tip it in for the wrong point. Now Hugo Allen's going to go ahead and improve his fastest lap time as well. So he's gone ahead and improved on that one. What's the time going to be for Simmons? 40.9. He's managed to throw in there. That'll be the last opportunity as well. So he's half a second away from improving on the most recent lap, but that'll be the end of qualifying for him. There won't be enough time for one more lap. We're looking at drivers in the final sector. There's a few of them. Sabo's down in there, but he's going to run out of time, so he's not going to set the lap either. So he will abandon the final lap of qualifying. It'll be a second row start at best for him. Lazarus improved all the way up to a 40 flat, and we'll take the second row at the moment. There's no one, I think, on a flying lap that's going to make it all the way back to the start-finish line. We've just seen 23rd placed Hayden Kirk come across the line, was the final driver. I believe we'll see set a lap time. James Jordan is in the dying stages of a lap, but won't get back to the start-finish line. And Taylor Mitchell also abandoning his lap. Qualifying comes to an end, and Hugo Allen takes 2 pole positions from 2 outings.
Yeah, indeed. This will be the second time we'll be talking to him for the MRP pole position interview, and he'll pick up another $60 store voucher for his troubles. What a brilliant lap it was there from Hugo Allen. Certainly, when it comes to single lap pace, he is the man to beat so far in the NZ Esports HyperFibre League, and well, we shall see exactly how this all goes. We're seeing some things happening on track that probably shouldn't be happening right now. We'll have to wait and see on that. But when we get a chance, we will bring Hugo Allen in to grab him for a chat. But yeah, what a lap it was from him.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal start to the session for Hugo Allen. And we're going to roll around to set ourselves up for a manual gridding sequence.
Yes.
So, that's what's going to be in process in the background at the moment. Qualifying. Run and done.
Yes, it seems that Yeah, usually the grid timer is extended, but I think someone might have pressed the wrong button and gone straight to the race start when only a few drivers were on the grid. So we'll get around that. We might have to shorten the ultimate distance of race 1 as a result of this, but we are still going to get a race on here. And when we get a chance, we will speak to Hugo Allen. I'm not sure exactly where he is at the moment on track, but he will be forming himself up for that pole position very shortly.
Yeah, so for Hugo Allen, second pole position from 2 attempts means he's going to be at the front end of the field and starting, gives himself the best opportunity to jump forward and take some points. Fastest HyperFibre internet at the front row as well. That site was it up at the pointy end of things, and it's going to be good here. I think good opportunity for the drivers to take an opportunity to warm the tyres up as they'll feed in, and we'll get you guys some updates on this gridding sequence as we have them become available to us. But we'll just quickly run through that qualifying order for you once again. Hugo Allen from Ewan Baker are going to be your front row. Antal Sabo from Corey Lazarus are going to be row number 2. James Jordan and Stephen McCartan are going to be row number 3. Sam Sproul and Dylan Jordan are going to be row number 4. Xavier Simmons and Hamish Cleland are going to make up row number 5. And that rounds out your top 10, Reese.
Indeed it does. Starting out of 11th is going to be Tyler Williams with Connor Brody alongside Russell Pepperell in 13th place, with having to take a 5-point penalty from incidents from last round. Rob Henry is going to be in 14th alongside Mandela Pluck, with Corey Crossan and Cameron Dance 16th and 17th. Nico Cordier, Dan Patrick and Taylor Mitchell will round out your top 20 cars, and then it's Brendan Partridge, Luke Bradley, Hayden Kirk and Daniel Patterson rounding out your top 24, with Billy Rowley and Dan Turner, our final drivers to take to the start here. So everyone getting into position here on the grid. If anything, Scott, this is a nice change from what we usually see in sim racing. Normally it's just drivers jumping straight onto the grid with no manual formation, and we just hit go. But this is one of the first times that I'm actually seeing cars in the virtual world manually getting into their grid slots. It's thrown me for a loop, but I like it too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's unique. Obviously, it's a challenge. It's something different, but it really is going to make sure that that everyone does their best to form up. Race controllers are communicating with the teams and making sure that everyone was in correct order, or at least everyone knew what their order was. And just a few issues with getting those orders sorted out now.
Yep, everyone just in communication, making sure that they're all in the right positions. Hugo Allen and Ewan Baker obviously taking those top 2 spots. I mean, it's easy enough when you qualify up the front. All you got to do is just make sure that you're just before the start-finish line. But when you're further back and in the midfield, you're having to get some assistance.
Yep, and that's what they're doing at the moment. The big key to these bits and pieces as well is just making sure that you know who you're actually around, and then sort of everyone sort of keeps an eye on that and how it sorts itself out. So most of the drivers starting to pull in. I think it's going to be interesting to keep half an eye on Antal Sabo at the moment as well, see what he can do from row number 2. So for the meantime, we're all just about to form up. I believe we're just waiting on a couple cars from the tail end of the field. Yeah, we're just waiting on Rowley and Turner to feed in the back couple rows.
All right, looks like we have pretty much all the cars in formation now. Just waiting on one final, maybe 2 final cars to swap into their requisite grid slots, and then we will finally get the call to start this first race. And tell you what, if this sort of chaos is anything to go by, we're certainly up for more. It's going to be a fun time indeed when we get to the hairpin for the first time under racing conditions. Everyone just making sure they've got everything in order. Some drivers might have turned the engine off for a few moments just to save it in terms of temperature, because all that time sitting on the grid with the engine running can certainly do a number on your temperatures.
Yeah, it can build the temperatures. They're generally quite good at maintaining at least not a lethal dose of the temperatures. It does take a fair while for that to go. We're getting race ready situation at the moment, just waiting on a count in from race control to launch us for a start. It's going to be live racing from New Zealand HyperFibre Esports League from Hockenheim, and they are green, racing from the front end of the grid, and it's going to be a good start from Hugo Allen around the outside from Sabo as he takes to the runoff area down at turn number 1. Lazarus is fed in. Ewan Baker's dropped spots all the way back to 4th spot after starting on the front row. McCartan's going to have a crack at him when they get down here to turn number 2 as well. McCartan to the inside, tries to take that one away. Round the outside from Ewan Baker, keeps the momentum up as they come onto the straightaway for the first time. A little bit of a slide though. Everyone's starting to look for a little bit of a tow, and they make it through the first sector on lap 1.
Yeah, Baker missed the cue a little bit on the start from race control. Started a little bit later and got bogged down, but he's going to try and defend at the hairpin here from McCartan as he gets up the inside. Easy does it. McCartan spinning up the wheels a little bit, but the traction is his, and so is the inside line. Manages to move himself up into 4th, but our top 3 starting to break away from the field. Allen, Sabo, and Lazarus. Well, we saw them fighting for the race 2 victory last round, and it looks like they're picking up exactly where they left off.
So there's been a big send from Brennan Partridge, who's bowled a little bit of a wide. There's some contact down there as well, and around goes a few cars in the background, and Cameron Dance is one of the drivers that will get collected. Hayden Kirk another.
Oh dear, Luke Bradley, Daniel Patterson and Billy Rowley just sliding their way through all of that. Dance has gotten back up to speed, so is Dan Patrick at the tail end of the field. But man, that is not ideal for any of those drivers. Hayden Kirk also with some damage to the rear end there. It's going to be quite difficult for them to make up positions from here, especially considering we have shortened the race by 1 lap. Thanks to the start issues. Instant replay thanks to Speednation. We're going to see here Brendan Partridge absolutely send it in there. But getting back onto the circuit, he did it pretty cleanly. All the chaos happened behind him.
Yeah, so I think we looked 4 wide as they fed in there. And then there was a little bit of a check-up because somebody was keeping an eye on the cars down the road, which, yeah, he had the eyes that was ready for it. Dan Patrick just wasn't, unfortunately. Car just not picking up the throttle on the exit of the corner, and he was expecting them to. Now it's going to be trying to set themselves into the race will be the big old key. A lot of damage to Hayden Kirk. I think it's one of the worst affected in terms of all that. But Tyler Williams has also got a fair bit of damage. And race control having a look into it as well. In the meantime, another big old send. I think Corey Croson's just had a big go at Rob Henry on the run down the hairpin. But for the meantime, Hugo Allen leads the way.
Yep, certainly does, and he's obviously got HyperFibre in his engine, fastest internet in New Zealand, and title sponsor of the NZ Esports HyperFibre League, which is crowning its first iRacing champion in this particular season of it. They've also named champions for Valorant, Counter-Strike 2, Rocket League, Tekken, Street Fighter, NBA 2K, and of course now iRacing for the first time. If you're curious about HyperFibre, fastest internet available with up to 8 gigabits per second upload and download. You can avoid lag no matter who is using your household internet. So big thanks, of course, to HyperFibre for your sponsorship of this series, and looking forward to bringing you more as the next lap begins and Hugo Allen is continuing to jet away from the front, but you never know. Antel Sabo might just make his way forward. For the time being, the fastest lap goes to James Jordan, currently running in 7th spot. And he's got a long line of cars behind him, all looking for that extra position.
Yeah, and he's sort of becoming that big cork in the bottle at the moment, isn't he? Lazarus as well, just got by Stephen McCartan. Now he's had to slot back in behind him. And those blackout OPR cars, I think Ewan Baker's going to come back and have a crack at him now as well. So there's this huge old battle pack on for 4 through 6. Baker's had a big old send of the hip, and he's going to make contact when they get down there as well. So McCartan and Baker will bang panels, and both of them get away. They're at the head of this old pack, and you can see them as they run down through the kink now. At turn 7, back to turn 8. McCartan's got the inside run. Can Baker go the long way round? McCartan's going to shut the door, but that's going to open it up now for Corey Lazarus to try and swing it back through and have a crack on the under-over. Looks for the crisscross. This is going to be the inside run down at turn number 11. Good drive off now. He's going to be far enough up alongside. He'll squeeze you and Baker and just hold him, prop him up a touch wide, and Baker will be forced to slot back in.
Yeah, Baker for a brief moment had it all to play for. A lock up behind him as well from Dylan Jordan, who's caught right up to him. This is pretty fantastic racing for every position except the top 2.
Checked out just a little bit, and I tell you what, the twins are at it as well, 6th and 7th on the road. So dominance in the Jordan household is on the cards tonight for a long stoush, potentially from both races. On the most recent lap, James Jordan lost a touch of time to Dylan Jordan. I can tell you Sam Sproul's going to try and come up and have a crack at both of these guys now as well. Going to go the long way around. James Jordan at the exit of turn 1. Run down to turn number 2. Gets hard on the anchors. Forced in behind the 2 Kiwi Sim Racing drivers. And back to the inside again. He's got a little bit of side draft going, you know, as well. He's going to prop James Jordan up on the run through Parabolica. Oh, just about making contact. You can see he's just trying to side draft him. He is pulling him back. He is
no, they're together.
On the run down to the hairpin. Are they both going to pull it up? Yes, they will.
That was a bit borderline, wasn't it? Sproul and Jordan briefly interlocking wheels. They're not afraid to lean on each other, it seems. So James Jordan now has the inside line versus Dylan. But if you, oh my lord, that was Sproul going for a massive slide over the curb. I'm amazed that he managed to recover that.
That's a phenomenal save. Connor Brody would have had a little bit of a panic attack in the car in behind him. And now he'll get the opportunity to try and attack the 2 drivers ahead as well. Cleland's buying into the background of this battle as well. And don't forget, 12th position for this race becomes pole position for race number 2. Pepperell sits in 12th spot at the moment. He's got a little bit of a buffer back to Rob Henry, and he sits at the back end of this battle pack.
Yeah, he does. But if you're Russell Pepperell, what do you want to do? Do you want to try and maintain that 12th spot to get that race 2 pole position? Remembering, of course, that race 2 gives more points out than race 1. Or do you try and attack, potentially with the idea that the guys in front of you might slow you up and bring you back into the clutches of Rob Henry and company behind? That's the big question. You know, you're trying to battle your way forward in a race, and if you're struggling to find your way past someone, as it seems Xavier Simmons is on Hamish Cleland there, it's just another thing for you to think about behind the wheel. What do you focus on? What's in front or what's behind? Well, it's definitely what's in front for Hugo Allen. He's not under any pressure from Antal Szabo for the time being, but remember, we saw at Road America that Szabo, once he got a run going, he was able to dice with Hugo Allen.
He's certainly maintaining with him as well. He's not dropping back. So there was one stage in qualifying they were separated by 0.02 of a second. A little bit more than that out on the road at the moment, but certainly going with each other. Check back in with our battle for 3rd spot as well. Lazarus has got back to the head of that queue. And now it's going to be McCartan and Baker who'll be forced to sit and watch. That's the view at the moment from Szabo's perspective. Championship leader. And ladies and gents, if you want to join in, we're expanding the opportunity to get involved in all the prizes as a part of the New Zealand HyperFibre Esports League. If you upload a photo of your sim racing setup, console or full-blown rig to Facebook or Instagram, like the Speednation Facebook page, tag Speednation in your photo. Entries will close at midnight on the 30th of September. That's right, you can get yourself a $50 voucher and gaming that just to participate. Getting a little bit of photos. Everyone loves a good sim rig and a good sim rig photo posted out and on the internet as well. That's one that'll be quite popular with the fans.
Yeah, certainly will. And yeah, you can use that $50 voucher at Speednation to help you expand your sim racing paraphernalia. Well, keep our eye on Corey Lazarus here. The 404 is looking pretty fast at the moment, of course showing no signs of catching up to the leaders, but he's keeping everyone behind him reasonably well. Remember a couple of laps ago we saw him, McCartan and Baker dicing away with the Jordans just behind. They've spaced out a little bit more now. Corey Lazarus has an entire clear track ahead of him, and that'll be to his benefit. He can focus on his own lines, maybe with the occasional glance in his mirrors as his teammate at Blackout OPR, Stefan McCartan, grabbing the apex nicely at the arena section there. I'm looking for a comeback from Ewan Baker. He's had a couple of slip-ups so far in this event, but he's certainly shown he can race right with these two.
Yeah, he's definitely quick enough in terms of things, so for Ewan, opportunity will present itself. And whether or not he's going to be there and thereabouts to take it. A little bit of a mistake from Lazarus too. Doesn't quite make the apex through the hairpin in the stadium section. That'll bring him a touch further back towards Stefan McCartan. McCartan not quite carrying it all the way out to the left-hand side. And you can just see, is it just me or is Lazarus really struggling to get the front end of that car to turn in at the moment? He just can't seem to point it at the corner, particularly the back half of the corner.
Yeah, I noticed that he was struggling on the power. He might have gotten on the throttle a little too early coming out of the final corner. And those last two turns, you know, medium speed right-handers where you're just rolling the car through the corners. It's so hard to pick the acceleration point. Seems like he's okay everywhere else around the circuit. It's, you know, mostly sharp corners with heavy braking zones. You know, it's very point and shoot a lot of the way around Hockenheim. But that final section of the circuit, it does seem like McCartan and Baker have a better handle on how to work the front end of their car. Lazarus is focusing on power out of the slow corners, and that's to his benefit. You see the gap increasing just a little bit there coming out of the hairpin.
So he's certainly trying to get on the front foot, see if he can't manage that gap. For now, third place in points. Well, he's looking, remember, he's only 1 point off of the championship lead, but at the moment, Samo is ahead of him. I just wonder at the end of this one whether or not there's might be a three-way tie in terms of our championship points. Feature race might go ahead and decide that one, but the top three have swapped places quite a number of times throughout the series thus far, and only 2 rounds in. Don't forget, next Thursday night as well, the trip to Phillip Island. Phillip Island always makes for phenomenal Porsche Cup racing. Cannot wait for that one next week, and then in a couple of weeks' time to finish the season off to the Nürburgring. The Nürburgring in a Porsche Cup car. You can challenge at multiple different points across the circuit. So potential for overtaking, potential for racing, quite high in the final 2 rounds. So though, Lazarus just holds the margin, manages the gap, has things under control. It's going to be on everyone behind to see if they can mount a comeback.
Yeah, that on board with Ewan Baker was quite interesting, wasn't it? One of a few drivers in the field racing in virtual reality, and you know, if you're new to sim racing, you've come in, you're watching this, and you're like, well, what's the deal with that? Well, you can race with a virtual reality headset, and a lot of drivers like to go for that because it's greater immersion. It allows you to put yourself exactly where you would be in the real car. But some drivers also like to run triple screens or ultra wides. That's the main reason why you see a lot of drivers mounting the cameras off their sim rigs there. A little bit of a battle further behind though, coming out of the hairpin. This is looking quite close between Xavier Simmons and Hamish Cleland. Cleland on the outside here, which becomes the inside for the next corner. Russell Pepperell right with them here. Remember, this is the battle for race 2 pole position. Russell currently sitting in 12th there in the yellow machine, and if these two keep battling like they are, going side by side, Pepperell might be in trouble for that race 2 pole.
Well, Simmons is going to send it back down the inside, wanting to get it to how many turns in a row these guys driven side by side? They've basically come off the Spitzkar hairpin and been side by side ever since. Now it'll be to the outside for Simmons. It'll become the inside the final 2 corners if he can stay there. Still side by side. 3/4 of a lap now they've been side by side for. Finally, will Hamish Cleland yield? No, he's still alongside to the final corner of the racetrack. Finally, Xavier Simmons gets the job done. And he said earlier, Reese, he was struggling to get that overtake done. I didn't think he was going to struggle to get it done for 3/4 of a lap. That was phenomenal driving. Amazing space and respect given by both drivers. Neither of them dive bombed it in. And from Cleland, he gave Simmons a lot of space to be able to get that move done as well. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, crucially though for Pepperell here, who we keep an eye on Zoom, he lost 1.5 seconds on the previous lap to Rob Henry and Corey Crossan. Look at how close they are to this pack now. Pepperell, I think, is shifting his focus. Now that there's this battle going on between Cleland and Simmons, Pepperell wants to get past them. He's going to try and go in the middle. Yes, almost 3 wide on the way into the hairpin. Gets up the inside of Cleland, who gives him the space on the inside, on the power, and Pepperell is through to 11th. So now Hamish Cleland is in that coveted race to pole spot, but Rob Henry and Corey Crossan, they set times in the 1 minute 41s on the previous lap, so they'll be right in it now as Pepperell has a little look at Simmons.
Yeah, so he's going to have another go at him, and he'll have to build some more margin for Pepperell to be able to do that safely, because Cleland is still working there in the background of that shot. Rob Henry's now really brought up onto the back end of this one. So
Pepperell!
Done with, but yeah, Pepperell's going to bowl that wide.
Oh man, looks like he just lost the rear end midway through the corner. Corrected it, and then the car just slithered off the circuit. He's lost his right wing mirror thanks to that. Could have been a worse bit of contact, but unfortunately he is well and truly out of that battle now for race to pole. Rob Henry now occupying that position. Move up a little bit forward. Ewan Baker continuing to chase down Stefan McCartan for P4. This has been a steadily simmering battle. Will it come up to a raging boil sooner rather than later? And if it does, will the Jordans, Sproul and Connor Brodie be able to have a run at potentially a top 5?
Will be the big opportunity for Henry. Now he's got to try and keep an eye. One eye forward, one eye backwards. Once Simmons has got clear of these two guys as well, he's just started to put a little bit of margin over Cleland. I can tell you Rob Henry is going to have a crack down into the hairpin late on the anchors as he gets down here, gets to the inside. Cleland lost the spot. 1 lap ago to Pepperell at the hairpin. Is he going to be left enough space? Just, they're banging wheels, banging doors at this point in time on the run down to the King. Cleland's going to be on the outside here. It'll become the inside. Late on the anchors, and that'll give him another opportunity getting back through. Rob Henry's looking for the switchback, tries to get underneath him here. Now he'll look for it once again, try and carry the speed through. No, Cleland's done enough of a job to hang on to that spot just as he mounts his defense for 11th spot on the road.
Yeah, good stuff there from Cleland and Henry, and in the midst of all of that they managed to put a little gap on Corey Crossan as well. Corey is there in the black and white car staring at race to pole, and he wants it as much as anyone out there. It would be a massive boon and a great haul of championship points if he was able to convert that into a good race 2 result, but for now he's on the outside looking in.
I remember Cleland last week hung onto the race lead for a very, very long time as the pack behind him got chalked up. Eventually did run him down, but it led to a strong result in race number 2. Can he do the same here tonight? Benefit, of course, starting up front as well, as you keep yourself clear of the weeds. So sometimes you can launch a long way away, and Henry is just going to go for another big old sand, by the way.
Yeah, certainly is.
This battle's not done, Reese. Not done by any stretch of the imagination.
No, yeah, this battle is going to have a third man join it, as it's going to be 3 wide on the way into the hairpin. Corey Crossan on the inside, but it's such a tight hairpin. Very wisely, I think, Rob Henry backing out of that one. He doesn't want to be in the middle coming into a corner like this.
Yeah, but now he's lost pole position for race number 2 as well, is the big key for this one. Cleland's going to hang on to this one for now. Corey Crossan dips his way onto the front row for race number 2, but also into 11th in the points, so he's picked off 2 spots. Good little bit of a dive, good little bit of aggression from the driver of the 10 machine. Cleland now is going to get an opportunity to come back at him. Whoa! Mistake from Crossan, the long way round once again. Cleland's being brave on the outside. Is he going to clear him by the time they get down here? Yes, he will. Slots back in. Great driving from Cleland.
Yeah, it was brilliant pace around the outside of the corner, wasn't it? Hard to do, but sometimes the outside line is where you want to be. I say it often, you can straighten up the car a bit earlier and get a better run out of the corner. If you're on the entry, it's the inside you want, but on the exit, sometimes the outside. Hugo Allen setting a new fastest lap there.
Something just happened to Ewan Baker. I think Stefan McCartan. I think the 2 of them had it coming together. It's just sort of been referred onto race control. There's going to be 3 more laps left to run from race number 1, so we are starting to run out of time. So if you're going to get the job done, It's going to have to be in the near future. Baker's going to continue to close down, but in the meantime, that's the view from Corey Lazarus, who's run away a little bit, and this is the next two drivers in the road, McCartan from Ewan Baker. And
yeah. I was going to say I just reviewed what happened between those two as the race continues on here between James Jordan and Sam Sproul. Samuel going to jump up the inside of the hairpin there. Nice move. There's going to be a little cutback here from James, but I don't think it's going to be enough. McCartan passed Baker around the outside in the stadium section, and I think Ewan was making the argument that McCartan turned in on him. They made a little bit of contact, but they managed to keep on going, so potentially just a racing incident, but I'll leave that one up to race control. These two continuing to fight tooth and nail over that fourth position. Lazarus has skipped away from them. He's under no pressure, and it's the same for Hugo Allen and Antal Szabo. 2.5 seconds in it for the race lead.
Yeah, they've done a phenomenal job up front from Hugo Allen. Much more dominating performance than last week. It was an extremely tight race, but also from Antel's perspective, an opportunity to sit here and go, okay, what did I do wrong? Was it too much front brake bias, too much rears? Am I struggling with the front end? Am I struggling with the rear end? You know, an opportunity for him to just sort of take some learnings from a sprint race, look after the tyre. 2 more laps left to run for our heat race before we'll take a break and jump on over to the feature. Worthwhile taking a look at some of the drivers who've cut their way through the field reasonably well as well. Billy Rowley's up 7 spots from 25th. Tail end of the field sits in 18th at the moment. And also into the top 10. Connor Brody from 12th on the grid has managed to make a little bit of ground and continues to do so. This race isn't done either, because I think he's starting to pick up a toe from James Jordan and Sam Sproul. These two guys are quite close together. And then you got this next battle pack on the road, which Simmons was a part of a few laps ago. But in the meantime, Cleland got back to 11th spot. He's dominating it. Rob Henry sat on that 12th spot, the pole position for race number 2 at one point. Now, geez, strong out of the brakes is Rob Henry.
Yeah, he certainly is. You can see just how much he rounded them up there in the braking zone. Very difficult to do indeed. But you get on the brakes at the right time, you modulate the pressure. Remember, these cars don't have anti-lock brakes. It's all down to the driver, and unfortunately, Russell Pepperell running a little bit too deep there. Man, he'll be kicking himself here. Pepperell had a worthwhile shot at race 2 pole position, but he's, I think, carrying a little bit of damage as well from his earlier mistakes, so not ideal for him.
I don't think he expected to be that close. I think he's just jumped on the brakes and jumped on them a lot harder than he certainly thought he had to. So, anyway, on with the show. And for Pepperell, well, he hasn't lost a whole bunch of time, but he's lost enough. He's still over a second back from the battle for 12th spot on the road and that pole position. Rob Henry will get one more opportunity to go for it. Yep, something happened.
Yeah, I just noticed we completely missed it. Hugo Allen has lost the race lead to Antal Szabo, and it happened in the stadium section. Allen just ran completely off the track, and Szabo was right there to take it. So a massive change there. Right at the end, Hugo Allen was dominating, but he made a mistake all on his own.
He did, and it was coming into the arena section as the Speednation replay is going to tell the story. And this will be a big one. He climbs over the curb there at the entry to 11, and then it's just a hang on for dear life moment. And in terms of things, he could have lost a lot more time or ended up in the barrier, and he's managed to recover it. It won't be a race win, but he's recovered that one, and that's the big key.
Yeah, indeed. When things do happen, it's all about how you can recover from them, and I think Hugo Allen did a good job of that. But he's going to have a go here at Antal Szabo in the final corners. It is the last lap of the race, and well, Antal seeing victory fall into his lap practically. He drove well, and he's going to take the opening race of the night.
Yeah, what a drive from Antal. Remember how I said, just take the learnings, take the lessons, sit there, be patient. Well, he was patient. Things eventually came his way. Hugo Allen's going to be supremely disappointed because he had that one on a string. One moment of a lack of concentration's cost him a race win. And
see that from Szabo as well. He shrugged as he crossed the line. I don't think he was expecting that, but nonetheless, he'll still be happy with victory there.
something's happened between Connor Brody. There was something between James Jordan, and there's another issue that's going on for Connor Brody. There was a shoots coming together in the second to last corner on the last lap as well. Came between James Jordan and Connor Brody. Brody was trying to get down the inside of Sam Sproul and have a go at him, but yeah, opportunity presents itself. Race number 1 results. Entel Sabo is going to take the race victory from Hugo Allen. Corey Lazarus gets home in P number 3. Stephen McCartan in P4, and Ewan Baker will be home in P5.
Yeah, indeed he will. Jordan managing to get himself into 6th place, and Dylan will be happy with that. James in 8th. You know, it's been a good race from those guys, and considering all of the chaos at the start, certainly was rather difficult for the drivers to get into their rhythm, but ultimately they have, and we're looking forward to seeing how race 2 goes from here. It's going to be a fun night to come for sure, but yeah, it's certainly showing that no one is immune to mistakes.
That's the big key. So we're going to try and get ourselves a chat with Hugo Allen and Antel Sabo if we can get the opportunity. So just waiting on those guys to jump through and come up and say hello. Particularly up on the one, Hugo Allen just has he might be busy just going for a change of underwear. The reactions had to be HyperFibre quick, I think, out of that one, and that was the only reason he came up with the car in one piece.
Yeah, indeed. Very good driving from Hugo Allen in spite of the error. So everyone's going to jump their way into the pit lane here. Already getting some experience of pit lane at the start of race 1. We shouldn't expect any pit stops in race 2. So nice little tour back to the garages for these guys.
Yeah, and they'll get an opportunity to take a little bit of a break and a reset. Perhaps practice some... the big one that always happens in the warm-up sessions is practice starts as well. Very, very important to make sure that you get that launch away. And, at the moment as well, reminder about that $50 Speednation voucher gaming floor mat giveaway. For our viewers, jump in onto your Facebook page, post a link, post a photo of your sim rig, and tag SimNations. That's how you get involved. You've got up until the 30th of September, so that is going to be this Sunday night to enter the competition. Get yourself a $50 voucher or a gaming mat. Just participate over on Facebook by posting an image of your sim racing rig and tagging SimNation is how you get involved. Can tell you, ladies and gents, we do have Corey Lazarus, who finished 3rd place out of the first race of tonight. Come and have a quick old chat to us. Corey, setting a grid manually, something that's a little bit uncommon, but you got away nice and cleanly and then settled into an amazing battle with teammates Stephen McCartan and Ewan Baker as well. 3-way fight for 3rd on the row. That's just how you like it, isn't it?
Yeah, it was okay. It was very unfortunate. I copped a slowdown out of turn 1 on whatever lap it was, 2 or 3 or something, and that was pretty much game over for any other advancements or battles with the front 2. It was pretty disappointing, to be fair.
Mate, tough, tricky track, and that's just one of the elements of it, isn't it? The slowdown, running wide down at turn 1. You got to carry the pace. You got to attack the curb at 1, and the ability to run wide. If you have a wiggle halfway through, you're picking up the slowdown most times through there. But that's just how you generate the lap speed around this place. The drafting battles on the run down to the hairpin as well have been phenomenal. We've already seen multiple 3-wide sort of scenarios as well. How's the bravery been down there from your perspective?
Pretty sedate, I think. The guys behind were pretty clean as well. It didn't look too bad, to be fair. I couldn't see too much further down the pack, but up front, the front 2 guys were pretty clean as usual, and the guys in and around where I were also pretty clean. It was pretty good.
In terms of things, you're going to be starting out of 10th spot for the second race here tonight, and the big issue for starting out of 10th, there's a few cars to go overtake here, mate. You're going to be nice and aggressive down at that hairpin on lap number 1.
Probably not, to be fair. You know, there's no fast repairs in this competition, so I think lap 1 of 27 is probably not the best time to be making passes when your tyres are under pressure and under temperature. Brakes are cold as well. I think if you play the long game in this one and look after your tyres, you'll be there at the end, which has to be the aim of the game, given the way the championship is structured.
All right, mate. Well, best of luck for race number 2. We'll let you get sorted and jump back into it, brother.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, Corey Lazarus, ladies and gentlemen, finishes P3 out of race number 1. We're going to step away for just a few moments as we get set to go live with our feature race. 27 laps coming your way in just a few moments. Well, welcome back, ladies and gents, and we're going to be jumping into the second of our races here tonight in just a few moments. 27 laps, the race duration. Top 12 are going to be inverted as well. So your race 1 winner, Antal Sabo, is going to be starting out of 12th spot. And like we said last week, they just create something special, reverse grids, don't they?
Yep, they certainly do. Antal is certainly going to be running his way forward, isn't he? And he's going to be joining us now for a chat. Welcome, Antal. Looking on the Zoom feed at the end of that first race, you weren't quite expecting to come home P1.
No, that was very much a surprise. I felt like it was race over. Didn't let go of the race by any means. I tried to get every blimmin' tenth I could. It was really pushing as hard as I could. The tires were going off. I think I mucked it up on the outlap there with overheating the tires possibly. Couldn't match Hugo at all. The rears were gone, fronts wouldn't turn, all sorts of problems. Every racing driver excuse, of course, and yeah, we move on, push on, we get that little gift there, and we'll take it, I suppose.
Yeah, but the race 2 points total is going to be more important, as you found out last round at Road America, with the potential for changing conditions in race 2. What are you expecting in terms of that?
A pure lotto match, or game, rather. Honestly, I'm not sure. Done a little bit of wet running, managed to do a little bit of wet running, feeling okay, but I thought I was feeling okay going into the race, and yet we got outrun by Hugo and even Ewan on the pace. So yeah, we'll just have to honestly wait and see.
Have you done any practice in the wet, and have you worked on a wet setup at all for the potential that might come up during the tournament?
Had a bit on heavy rain, a little bit on light rain ahead of tonight. Didn't have much time for preparation, unfortunately, this week. But yeah, know roughly what to expect, know roughly what the track is like in the wet, where the wet patches tend to form, and where we should be fast, where we shouldn't. So we'll see how we go.
All right. working through from 12th place in race 2. Antal, thanks very much for joining us, and best of luck for the second race.
Cheers, team. Thank you.
Well, good stuff from Antal Sabo, coming away with maximum points so far tonight, Scott. But as we keep saying, race 2 is where the big points are paid. So all the drivers, I think, will be putting a lot of effort into making sure their result is as good as it can be, as it is now well and truly overcast over Hockenheim, Baden-Württemberg in Germany, and potential, of course, for rain on the horizon. Let's see what happens.
I think that shot right there is very, very telling, isn't it? Have a look at the cloud cover. Down towards the Spitzkehre hairpin, it's all relatively light, it's all relatively bright. You know, there is patches of grey in there, but it doesn't look too bad. So what it says to me is, if we're going to get rain, it's going to be heaviest when we turn around and point back in the other direction. Take a 180-degree turn from here. Yeah, that looks a fair bit darker back out over this way. There's less light patches in those clouds. Reminder as well, if you didn't just hear, we were talking about the entry to the Speednation competition. You want yourself a $50 Speednation voucher and a gaming mat to go along with it. Jump on over to your social media. Make sure that you post a photo of your sim rig. That could be as simple as your controller in front of a sim racing game. Get that one posted up. Tag Speednation in the post. You could be winning yourself a $50 Speednation voucher to improve your sim racing rig. Perhaps you're sitting there on a controller and you've always envisioned getting behind the wheel of some of the latest and greatest racing products. Well, the best way to get involved, start yourself off with a little bit of a voucher, a discount on things, and you get yourself a gaming mat as well. Speednation is the round sponsor for tonight. Proud supplier of Auckland, team based in Auckland, to all of your best sim racing brands. Moser, Thrustmaster, Next Level Rating, Turtle Beach, and much, much more. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's round sponsor, Speednation.
Yeah, brilliant stuff to have them on board.
Yeah, and I just want to say a big shout out to the sponsors and everyone that's put this series together. I don't think the fans that are sitting along at home and tuning in are actually getting much of a sense of the prizes. There is actually a significant prize pool that's been hoisted upon us for this series. First place is going to be taking home $1,600 in New Zealand dollars. $1,600 New Zealand dollars, and there's a $5,000 total prize pool. Those sorts of prizes don't come around in sim racing very, very often. So we do want to say a big shout out to HyperFibre, who is the supplier of New Zealand's fastest internet available. Up to 8 gigabits per second upload and download. I'm incredibly jealous because I cannot sit here and watch my loading bars all that long. I get very, very bored. Ansi can't sit still. Maybe HyperFibre if I was unlucky enough to be living in Australia. No option for NZ HyperFibre. So.
Yeah, indeed. I'm a bit envious of that myself. HyperFibre can future-proof your home and business by keeping up with everyone's ever-growing data needs with plenty of capacity and incredibly low latency. You got 3 speed options, 2 gigabit, 4 gigabit, and 8 gigabit per second. And I love the services that HyperFibre offer for all you Kiwis across the Tasman Sea. Chorus HyperFibre, of course, the biggest supporter of the NZ Esports Federation. It's been going on for 3 years so far, the NZ Esports HyperFibre League. Multiple games have been showcased in HyperFibre League over the last 3 years. The NZ Sim Racing Collective got together with the NZ Esports Federation and put this whole shebang together. Really awesome to see iRacing being given a spot at the very top of New Zealand esports competition. Just a few minutes left in warm-up. The drivers are going to be out there getting some extra laps on the board, and then we'll be getting ready for this second race. Now, I remember from Road America, the big thing that we had to think about was the extra length of the race. I mean, it's obvious, right? You need to sort of take a bit more time with your moves. Race 1 was the sprint. That was where everyone was going to be extra desperate for positions, but they were also feeling it out with each other. Now that they know how the track races, where they can push, where they need to back off, I'm sure that there'll be a bit more of a tactical race here in race 2.
Yeah, look, there's 2 ways to go about it, isn't it? If a an opportunity presents itself, you sort of got to grab it. But one of the things that sort of my NASCAR background teaches me is sometimes you just got to be in the right lane at the right time. If the lane that you're in, somebody in it just gets checked up, and all of a sudden the other lane manages to undercut you, shoot through, you know, where the holes, where the vacancies. The other big thing is like you said, timing and making sure that you're getting the moves done cleanly and concisely. Bumping somebody off, well, you're going to undo all the hard work. Contact tends to send you towards the background. So look, I mean, you gotta be aggressive for sure, because if you're not being aggressive, you're not making the overtakes, you're not moving yourself forward, the other drivers are going to be. So it's very much measured aggression, I think, is always the best way to go. Or you could, you know, quote Star Wars and say, what, aggressive negotiations with a lightsaber.
Yeah, indeed. But we've seen how that can often go with the incidents in race 1. I think maybe not using as much of the Star Wars force as they were physical force to make their moves. But we'll see what happens.
Let's say negotiations with the Porsche 992.
Yes. Very aggressive negotiations with the trunk, incidentally, or the boot, I suppose, of these cars. They're interesting little things. The Porsche 911's engine, of course, slung over the rear axle, a flat 6 engine, providing a good amount of power to the rear wheels. It means that the driving dynamics of a Porsche are rather different to what you'd expect from many other race cars, and I'm sure the drivers will be taking that into account. The basic theory still applies when it comes to race driving. Just got to be wary of that rear end acting like a pendulum when it swings out.
You know what really bothers me about this car is when they brought out the 992 chassis, the brake lights. I hate them. They're so small.
Yeah, they're tiny, aren't they? It's very difficult to tell when the driver in front of you is on the anchors, and certainly watching from external cameras, it's a little bit harder to tell as well. I miss the era of big headlights and brake lights. I think that's over now, honestly, in the real world motoring space.
Yeah, I like some of the blinkers and the indicators and some of those designs. I think they're really, really cool, but I do not like the rear end of this car. Yeah, just in general. And the other thing is, I'm not a fan of the engine sound. I like me a very raw sounding engine, and there have been some glorious sounding Porsches over the year. I think one of the better ones was the previous generation of car, was the 991. I just love the drivetrain and the engine sound that comes out of that car. So when you say to me, you know, was this new car an upgrade? It's a car. And I'll hold to my comments. Rob Henry, however, is going to be saying it's going to be a very, very fast car from the front row of the grid. He's going to be off alongside of Hamish Cleland, who makes it 2 from 2 front row in feature races. Connor Brody is going to be off of row number 2. Xavier Simmons managed to make his way up a few spots in that first race. Alongside of him, James Jordan and Sam Sprout. These two came to blows in the final lap of the last race. Will it come to blows down at turn number 1? Dylan Jordan and Ewan Baker. Baker a little bit unhappy with how his race ended. Can he look for a better start from race number 2? Stefan McCartan managed to hang on to that 4th spot. Corey Lazarus found his way onto the podium. We'll start just behind him for this one. Hugo Allen and Antel Sabo are going to be your race 1 winners, and first and second on the grid becomes 11th and 12th for race number 2. Nico Cordier and Russell Pepperell. Pepperell had an opportunity to take this one away and get pole position, missed out on it. We're going to get the revs to start to rise as we get into race number 2. Henry from the front row. Can he get a good launch? They'll all launch it away. It's not a great start from Hamish Cleland. He's already going to be losing a couple of spots. Connor Brody's managed to make a couple of moves. Simmons is trying to go around the outside as they get down to turn number 1. Will they manage to feed on in there? It's Cleland that got bumped out of the way. They're all managing to hang on to it, but are they 5 wide? You bet your life they are as they come through the run down at turn number 2. There's going to be some big sends here. Drivers looking to make time up, and Cleland started well last week in the feature. Not so this week.
Wow, 3 wide between Sabo, Baker, and Dylan Jordan there coming through turn 4. Incredible stuff. And here comes Hugo Allen to try and make up a place here. This is fantastic on the first lap. We've seen some good space being given by most drivers, but maybe a little bit of rubbing and bashing on the way through those opening corners. Down at the hairpin, they'll manage to make their way through cleanly. A couple of drivers taking the extreme outside line. to avoid getting run into, but they all make their way through cleanly so far. Now it's down to turn 8. This is where things really start to get interesting. Massive dive by Antal Sabo, managing to get past, and Sam Sproul has fallen all the way down the order.
Yeah, Hugo Allen's only managed to get his way through to about 9th. Ewan Baker's on the road ahead of him. He's going to try and swap him back over. And by the way, I just took a look at the radar. We've got rain on the radar to the southwest. I reckon it might hit in the probably about 2/3 race distance. Will be the earliest we'll see it.
Corey Crossan, meanwhile, running very deep coming into the stadium section. I don't know if there was contact involved there. Russell Pepperell trying to work his way up, battling side by side with Mandela Pluck, who we were hearing wasn't even supposed to be here tonight. So it's good to see him out there on track. But Russell Pepperell will struggle to make his way past, but he's up 2 positions from where he started. That's good for him. Car that's gained the most places so far, Taylor Mitchell, number 37, up 8 spots to 14th.
Still on the improve as well. Cleland, though, he's had the worst start to this one. He's gone significantly backwards. Started in the front row, now sits in 13th spot. He's going to try and go around the outside of Russell Pepperell as they get down through turn number 2. Onto the back straight. This is where these two were sort of stoushing in race number 1 during the early portions of it. James Jordan's had some grief, I think, on this lap as well. He's continuing to try and find some space. Lazarus might have just made contact actually with him, and Lazarus took the opportunity to redress that one out on track without waiting for race control and kept that spot back now. Great sportsmanship on display. Phenomenal job from Corey Lazarus.
Yeah, good stuff indeed. Let's see what Connor Brodie will be able to do here on Rob Henry for the lead of the race. This is fantastic stuff. Lazarus, Jordan, Sabo, McCartan, they're all sort of trying to march their way forward up to these guys. With how close they are for the time being, we could see some more time lost. But we'll see what Connor Brodie will be able to do here as Simmons here on Zoom chases him down into the stadium section, running a little bit deep, even deeper for Corey Lazarus just behind, but he gathers it up.
Yeah, going to continue to try and be aggressive from these guys. Tyres will be just starting to come up to pressure now. So might start to see some fast laps as they begin to get set. Again, Lazarus struggling to really get the front end of his Porsche 992 set into the corners. James Jordan sits 5th at the moment. Sabo's driven his way all the way through to 6th. Hasn't been able to make much more progress than that. And something's actually happened, I think, to Hugo Allen.
Yes. Yeah, he is absolutely falling down the order, dropping like a stone. He's not even on the circuit right now. Something's gone massively wrong for him. Looks like he's just disappeared. Unfortunately, I think a game crash potentially. I'm not too sure. But either way, Hugo Allen is out.
Looks that way at the moment. We'll wait for another update. And I can tell you there's a battle on for our race lead. Brodie's going to try and go the long way around. Deep on the brakes was Rob Henry. He said he's comfortable on the brakes. Simmons goes for the switchback and tries to get both of them. Does get the drive when they get out the other side. So Xavier Simmons goes from 3rd spot as they enter the spit scare hairpin. Now he's got the nose ahead. Henry will have a go at him back down here for sure because he's been strong on the brakes. Simmons has given him the space. He's going to go the long way round. Has he got the job done? Wriggles around under acceleration. Now it's going to be Brodie who slides it back down the inside. Can't maintain it. Lazarus is going to come back through and have a crack at the pair of them.
Yeah, the heavy hitters have arrived on the scene. Corey Lazarus dispatches his teammate Connor Brodie very nicely coming into the stadium section, and Antal Zabo is right there too. He's going to squeeze up the inside coming into turn 12. Yeah, it's turn 12. Not able to get the move done though. He'll have to wait a few more corners.
Give me more, give me more, give me more. I love good reverse grid racing because it just challenges the drivers. It's something, you know, the drivers that are out the front get an opportunity to put on their overtaking skills, while the drivers that sit a little bit deeper in the field get an opportunity to lead some laps. We've seen that now from Rob Henry. Simmons will now take the opportunity to lead the way. Lazarus will get the next opportunity to come through and have a crack at our race leaders. He's going to try and get down the inside of Rob Henry for P number 2. Henry's going to go the long way around when they get down here, and you can see in the background as well, Sabo's still trying to have a go and has managed to pick off Connor Brodie now. And that'll probably prompt some more aggression out of Corey Lazarus, because if he wants to get away and he wants to have a crack for the race win, he's going to need to do it early and force Rob Henry to battle Antal Sabo. That could be the way Corey Lazarus finds himself a race win.
Yeah, running a little bit deep in the hairpin, but picks up the throttle very nicely, I have to say, and completes the move for second. So now he just needs to dispatch Simmons, and he'll have 2 cars in between himself and Sabo. Or will it be one with a huge dive there from Antal? How on earth has he managed to pull that up? He gets it done almost on Rob Henry. Henry's going to try and keep him around the outside here, but Sabo picks up the power nicely. He will still have the position when the track narrows up coming into the stadium.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the outside as you get down through into the stadium section. Lazarus is going to try and put some pressure on, and he's got to be aggressive now, because if he's not, Antal Sabo is going to be starting to have a go at him, and he might be able to lead it from the front if he can get clear. If Xavier Simmons can be the cork in the bottle, if he can check up Antal Sabo, that might buy him the time he needs. Update on Hugo Allen. Issues with internet. Should have gone for HyperFibre. He would have been in a lot better situation. Unfortunately for Allen, though, he's going to drop a race. He's going to drop a bank of points, and that could decide his opportunity to title. Simmons goes deep through return number 1. This is going to present the opportunity for Lazarus to get down the inside, and he will not look to wait around. He is going to take that opportunity at first asking, and he does get down the inside, helped out by Xavier Simmons. He just lets him roll on through.
Certainly does. I saw that Lazarus was having a little look at turn 1 of all places, and you don't usually see overtaking there. He managed to stay behind, and it was a little bit of a better run across the curbs for him. Interestingly, though, seems like Lazarus hasn't quite gotten the run out of turn 4 that he wanted. So now here into the turn 6 hairpin, Simmons will still be alongside him. It's very deep, meanwhile, from Rob Henry. He just manages to squeeze up the inside, but gets turned on the exit by Connor Brody. Looked like Rob Henry was a little bit out of control on the way into the corner there, and it looks like another car has been involved in that as well. Mandela Pluck.
Yep, from the rear end of the field, he was driving his way through, had managed to make his way into the racing action, and he'll very, very quickly move his way on out of the racing action as well towards the tail end of the field. Hugo Allen returns to the server, and we'll get an opportunity to go back out and try and score some points. But it's not going to be the bank of points that he was looking for. Lazarus now leads. Sabo's got some work to do, because he's going to have to get on by Xavier Simmons if he wants to win this race. And this is an opportunity for Sabo, after winning race 1, to put a stamp of authority on the 4-week championship. If he can dominate at the halfway stage after tonight, gee, that's going to be difficult to run down. But Lazarus might just be the challenge he's looking for.
Yeah, indeed. Lazarus certainly right there and looking for it. Didn't quite get the points in race 1 at Road America, but with his brilliant race 2, he managed to put himself right into the championship fight. And if he can hold on for the win here, it would be massive. We'll definitely have a tight race at the front. We saw a pack behind these guys, meanwhile. Stefan McCartan and Ewan Baker, well, they were battling hard in the previous race, and they're battling just as hard now on the last lap. Once again, Ewan Baker was on the inside of the corner, McCartan turning in and making a little bit of contact with him. So I think Ewan Baker might be getting a little bit of the red mist descending for the time being. We'll have to wait and see, though. McCartan has to try and make his way past James Jordan here coming out of the hairpin.
Yeah, so difficulty for McCartan will be trying to set this move up. There was a redress ordered on the number 10 car, Cora Croson, whose unfortunately night is already over, was to redress behind the 69 machine for contact that was made. 69 is Nico Cordier, who now runs at the tail end of the field. So for both of those cars, night effectively over.
Yeah, shame for the both of them. They were definitely cars that we would have seen fighting in and amongst that top 10 area. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on the lead of the race. I'll tell you what, Sabo's gotten by Xavier Simmons, but he's not making much of an impression on Lazarus yet.
Yeah. And that'll be the difficulty. Whether or not he's just trying to look after the tyres just a little bit, although he runs very, very wide coming out of the final corner, and utilising all of the extra circuit runoff area to try and make some time. For the meantime, Lazarus is free at the toe. If he can build a little bit of a margin, it'll certainly make him feel significantly more comfortable. It's going to require getting that drive off of here, though, and then all the way down back straight away. Update on the weather scenario. It is continuing to creep in from the southwest, so we'll just sit and we'll wait. And in terms of the southwest corner of the circuit, that's going to be coming over the drag strip, down over that final corner across the start-finish straight towards the northeastern corner, which is where we are right now, down at the hairpin. So the hairpin will be the last section of the circuit that will get rain if we get it. If we do get it, it will be light rain only. So they may be able to continue on the slick.
Yeah, very light drizzle. There's the position change there. James Jordan letting Stefan McCartan by as McCartan got up the inside at the hairpin and completes the move. So yeah, you're right. They will still be racing in pretty dry conditions all the way to the end. The rain, when it does fall, I don't think is going to be quite enough to justify a switch to wet tyres, especially since if it does come at all, it'll come very late in the race, probably in the dying laps of this event.
That could change things up, changing grip levels each and every lap. So it'll be about keeping heat in the tyre. Provided you can keep the heat in the tyre, you'll be okay. It'll be the big thing that we'll keep half an eye on. Sabo's not made any inroads on Lazarus this lap. They're about even when they get to the end of the lap. He made sort of some time in the middle sectors, but then at the tail end, just a touch of a mistake, and Lazarus just runs away at the front end again. Meantime, Ewan Baker, we're trying to get his way on by James Jordan. Here comes an opportunity down at turn number 2. Dive late on the brakes, deep on the brakes, does get the car stopped, but the drive out the other side, James Jordan is going to put the power down and get a reasonable drive. It's not flat through the turn 3 kick back to the left-hander. It's a slight lift, and Jordan's going to carry the pace all the way off of 2 onto the back straight. And Ewan Baker's got the shorter way around Parabolica. Is he going to be able to outbrake James Jordan from the outside down here at the hairpin? They're going to go in nice and even. Jordan looks like he's in a touch deep. He's going to run it wide. Looks for the crisscross. Gets propped up though. Jordan was able to just cover him off in the latter part of the corner. And I think part of the reason for that was Dylan Jordan showed the nose as well.
Yep. The brothers helping each other out there in their battle with Ewan Baker, who decides now is the time for another dive, but has he gone too deep? Jordan sees him coming and runs a little bit wide just to avoid making contact, keeps the position in the midst of all of that. I'll tell you what, Ewan Baker is throwing some spirited moves here, but he's not quite able to get it done.
I don't know if he's starting to get a little bit frustrated now, Ewan Baker, because he feels like he could be with Stefan McCartan, and McCartan's starting to just run away just a touch. Not a huge amount, but just starting to run away. You'll think that he can certainly go with him if he can clear them. He's got to set it up though. Dive bomb at turn 2. I looked at that and went, he's probably going to lose that spot if he pulls that trigger just with how deep he went, but I think he might set it up this time and try and go down the inside of the hairpin.
Yeah, I think the big problem with trying to make a move at Hockenheim, especially at turn 2, is you've got that flick back to the left before you get onto the straight. And we saw that James Jordan was able to do the crisscross on him and prevent Ewan Baker from using all of the track on the exit here, right at this point on the circuit. This time, though, Baker has used the exit to its full potential, and he's got the slipstream. He's going to show the nose halfway through Parabolica. And now, hard on the brakes for the hairpin. You can get a bit later on the brakes here around the outside, but you will compromise your line on the way through. Baker is the first to the apex. Got him.
Yep, much better. And he's just forcing Jordan to run a touch deep. And Jordan will happily comply, and he just set that one up, used his brain a little bit with that move, Ewan Baker. So much better in terms of that capacity. Now we have the opportunity to see if he can go and chase down McCartan. I think McCartan might have made a little bit of a mistake in the first sector, because he's come back quite a lot now to Ewan Baker. So that one's still all to play for 5th place on the road. Connor Brody's doing a really good job up ahead. Got caught up in race number 1, wasn't really able to advance his position. Race number 2 though, presented with an opportunity. He's going with Xavier Simmons and going quite well.
Yeah, good stuff from Connor Brody right now, and you can see that he's being very aggressive with those curbs as well. One more reminder here of our Speednation voucher and gaming mat giveaway. $50 store voucher up for grabs. All you got to do is upload a photo of your racing setup to Facebook or Instagram, like the Speednation Facebook page, and tag Speednation in the photo. You've got until midnight the 30th of September to do that. So you want to have a run at $50 of in-store credit at Speednation plus a gaming mat, go for it. Head onto the socials, get it done. Brilliant stuff. Well, as we ride on board here with Connor Brody, back onto Parabolica here once again. see how much of a slipstream he may or may not get from Xavier Simmons. It's about a second back from the car in front that you start really feeling the benefits of that slipstream. It was a big talking point last round at Road America, wasn't it, Scott? Not as big of a talking point here, but it's still relevant.
Very, very relevant, because it's the run down of the hairpin isn't that really sets those moves up. So staying relevant is Colin Brodie, and I think that's the big key. He's just going to stay relevant and hope for a mistake from Xavier Simmons. Maybe not able to match him in terms of outright speed, but if you get a bit of a tow along and there's a mistake, take the opportunity. That'll be the big, big key. Sits fourth on the road. Could a podium for Conor Brodie be in the offering? 10 lap of the race already underway. We're rapidly approaching the halfway mark, and the weather continues to crawl in from the southwest. Gee, I don't know. You might be right. It might just be those last 2 laps of the race. We might see some rain. Might.
Yeah, well, looking at the weather radar, I've been tracking the position of that rain on the radar. It's covered about half the distance to the circuit that it was at the start of the race. So I reckon by about lap 20, lap 21, we'll be right on the verge of getting a tiny bit of drizzle.
And then all of a sudden, the line through turn 1 particularly is going to be, that's the end of the circuit. It's going to hit it earliest. That's going to be the big key, because you bounce over the curb on the inside all the way to the curbing on the outside. That's a ton of paint you're crossing over, so anything can happen. Wet weather lines may come into play to finish this one off. Ewan Baker finally, after getting that move done, is trying to set sail, and he's doing reasonably so. Cameron Dance is having a much, much better race number 2 compared to race 1, through to 11th spot. In pursuit now of Taylor Mitchell, will be his next victim on the road after he made the pass on Hamish Colland.
Yeah, very good stuff from Cameron Dance. Remember, he had a torrid race 1. We saw him involved in the lap 1 incident in the first race, and that was pretty much the last we saw of the man in the number 6. But now up 15 places and chasing down a potential top 10 position. Taylor Mitchell is about 1.1 seconds ahead of him at the moment, just the next car up the road. And Mitchell's had a pretty good race as well, up 12 spots. Same for Tyler Williams in 13th place. Some brilliant gains from many drivers in this field.
Yeah, getting out there and getting their overtakes on, which always makes for exciting racing. Meantime, everyone's still cracking on, bar our only retirement of the night, Corey Crowson. I'll tell you what, Lazarus still leads the way, but Starbo's sort of brought the margin back under a second at the moment. So, battle for the race lead is going to continue to heat up. I'm just curious, keeping an eye on this one. Starbo said that he had done some light rain practice, so he has put the work in to make sure that he's prepared for slightly wet conditions. I wonder about Corey Lazarus, whether or not he's done the work as well.
Yeah, that's always the question. You know, once the iRacing weather system came into effect, that was one of the big debates in the community, is like, how can you really prepare for it? You can set up sessions, you can do practice in all kinds of conditions, but it's at that point where the conditions change, when the switch flips. You know, I think that's the real kicker, because it's all well and good if you can drive a car competitively in the wet, but if you mess up the transition from dry tires to wet tires, then your skill is only going to be secondary.
Yeah, and it comes with the line. You just got to do as much preparation as you possibly can. And, you know, the biggest thing is, us as simulators, we've had this luxury for years of not having to splash about in the puddles. Well, break out the brolly and break out your galoshes, because it's time to go a splish splashing about, I think, at the tail end of this one.
Yeah, certainly. And I think another big benefit of sim racing compared to real life racing is track time. That's the big benefit that sim racers often have over real world drivers. They just get more time to prepare. You can boot up a session offline and just do laps for as long as you like before a race event. Yeah, the conditions might be a little bit different, but you'll be a lot more familiar than a real life driver in the same circumstances, which has to wait for a test day. Sometimes you'll only get a few laps of running at a real life test session. And if you want to get some wet weather experience, you have to wait for the rain to come.
everything has to align, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. And for those of you sitting along at home and going, you know, I'm interested, I want to get into sim racing. Well, SimNation, going to be your Auckland-based supplier for all your sim racing bits and bobs. SimNation over on Facebook, simnation.co.nz. Get yourself involved if you want to go splish-splashing about with the wet tyres on. Got to start with Speednation. Sorry, my apologies, Speednation. Speednation is the name of our tonight's round sponsor. Get yourself started with Speednation. We all start at different points in our sim racing journey. Some of us come to sim racing world from real world experience, looking to tighten your racing up, improve your racing IQ. More time behind the wheel can't hurt. The biggest thing is it's cheap. I think that's the biggest win. You don't have to pay for tyres, you don't have to pay for race fuel. Get your Speednation products and get behind the wheel as soon as you possibly can, as often as you possibly can. That's the way to go.
Best of all, if you crash the car, no repair bills.
I think that was very important in my early racing career. Reese, how about you?
yeah, indeed. Plenty of us have had that transition period where, you know, we're crashing all the time, and yeah, you know, you just press the reset button and you're right back racing. You don't get that luxury in real world racing. Well, it looks like the battle is starting to close up a bit between Connor Brody and Stefan McCartan here. McCartan is, well, he hasn't exactly left Ewan Baker behind, but the gap has not decreased all that much. It looks like Baker has managed to get free of James and Dylan Jordan, battling in 7th and 8th there, and we may very well have a four-way battle for the last spot on the podium here. Connor Brody not been able to get past Xavier Simmons, I think just biding his time for the moment, and McCartan right now starting to round them up. Let's see how much he gains on brakes into the hairpin. It is a bit misleading because as the cars slow down, there is a bit of an accordion effect, but I do think he is making up time. McCartan's last lap was a 140.89. Compare that to a 141.2 for Brody and a 41.1 for Simmons. He's definitely faster and looking to make a day of it.
So starting to make some time in the big key as well, is that Ewan Baker's managed to bring that margin down to right about that 1 second margin as well. So he can hang around in this area and get that little bit of a toe, and then they start fighting ahead. Well, he will be back into this one. Sabo's still not able to make the inroads either. He's got the margin down to about 3/4 of a second, just a touch under that, but he's not closing massively. And we're just past the halfway mark now on our feature race for tonight. And as the weather starts to creep in and the skies around the Hockenheim circuit begin to darken, what about our race prospects for a number of drivers? Do we know, for all of our viewers watching out there in social media land, if we've got any of the wet weather masters in the server as well? Who is going to be the driver that comes to the fore when the rain starts to fall?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We haven't experienced wet weather in the NZ Esports HyperFibre League just yet. So it will be interesting to see how the running order changes and by how much. The battle is closing here between McCartan and Brody, but it's side by side for 10th meanwhile. Cameron Dance has been catching up to Taylor Mitchell this whole time. We checked in on them when they were a couple of seconds apart. Now Dance is having a run at the hairpin on the outside. Don't know if he'll be able to keep it around the outside. He certainly can though. Manages to put the power down, and he'll have the inside line for the next braking zone. So Cameron Dance on a massive run through the field is going to continue here, and taking advantage is Hamish Cleland, who we haven't seen in a bit.
It's been a while for Hamish Cleland, starting to try and apply some pressure back to Taylor Mitchell. Remember, Cleland had that troublesome lap number 1. There's some damage to the rear end of the number 41 Porsche. Has probably given him a little bit of a rough up and rattled his confidence just a touch. Cleland as they all bounce all the way out and over the curbing. Down at turn 11, the hairpin now at 12. And we'll start to try and build that run once more. And into the final couple of corners as well. All the way out, he's closing. I tell you what, Cameron Dance was then wide at the final corner as well. This is going to present a huge opportunity for Taylor Mitchell, but it's the run down to turn number 1, a single line groove when they get down here. Not much of an opportunity, but it may present the opportunity on the run to the hairpin. Perhaps the run into turn number 2 doesn't quite get the drive he was looking for. As Taylor Mitchell, he'll have to bide his time once more. Just sit back, relax, and wait for the opportunities. And again, Dance is going to run wide at turn 2, Reese.
Yeah, he's going a little bit deep here. He spent all of that time trying to make the move, and now he's got clear track in front of him to the tune of about 7 seconds or so to Russell Pepperell. So now he has to recalibrate as Corey Lazarus now has to defend from Antal Sabo for the lead. The battle is on for the win of race 2.
Starting to close, and these two have got a healthy margin out for the race lead now. So it's just be between these two. We said it was critical for Lazarus to get that margin whilst he could. Well, he's got the margin, he's had control. Now Sabo's been able to mount the comeback. Simmons has not been able to go with them either. But McCartan, conversely, has not actually been able to build the margin back on towards Simmons. So Simmons will look to have control of P3 on the road at the moment. 16 laps in the book. When they get to the start-finish line of 27, there will be 11 more laps left to run.
And that rain is creeping ever closer. It's now about, I'd say, 80% of the way to the circuit from where it was at the start of the race. So expect some time in the next 5 laps or so to maybe see some light, some light drizzle. Rob Henry still holding on to 14th spot for the time being. It's been a shame, you know, he started so well and it just hasn't gone his way, but he's still involved in a very tight battle and there's a lot of places that he could potentially make up. Look at how close they are ahead. Tyler Williams up there trying to get past Hamish Cleland with a massive run out of turn 4.
Cleland's just continuing to just get bottled up, and I think Rob Henry trying to cut his way back through the field. He was good on the brakes, remember, down here in the last race. Williams is going to try and have a go at Cleland on the run down to the hairpin. Those two will get checked up by the drivers up ahead of them as well. Mitchell still staying attached to the rear bumper of Cameron Dance in this battle for one spot inside the top 10. The rest of them will be on the outside of the top 10 and looking in. Pepperell's been able to run away a little bit as well, so he's continued to build the margin. Again, Dance is going to run wide, really struggling to get that car pulled up and turned in now to a lot of the corners, bounces over the curb. This is going to present an opportunity. Again, Mitchell's probably not the right space to go for it, but gets close enough and continues to harass. And again, Dance is deep once more. He's just continuing to make mistakes and keep the battle on for the race lead as well, because Sabo has closed that margin down to a couple of tenths of a second.
Hugo Allen running the fastest lap so far, 1 minute 40.4 for him, but he's well out of the fight here, a lap down on the rest of the field. He would have loved to have been up here with these guys. I'm sure if Allen hadn't had his connection issues earlier, then we would have probably had a 3-way battle between these three, much like we had at Road America last round. Now it's time for Lazarus to try and break the draft. He wants to deprive Antal Sabo of every opportunity he can for a move, but there's space to the inside and Sabo's gonna go for it side by side at the turn-in point. Oh, Lazarus turns in, but Sabo just went too deep. Bit of contact, but he's got the lead.
Yeah, he's got the lead for now, and now it'll be on to Corey Lazarus to see if he can try and respond. He said from race number 1, I didn't get clear at the front, I made a mistake, and I gave myself a slowdown penalty. I couldn't go with those front two from race number 1, and that's what cost me this time. He's there and thereabouts. You get the feeling Sabo's just a touch quicker. Was there some damage, though, that's been caused by the contact with a big key?
Yeah, that is the big question. It was a fair whack that Antal Sabo gave to the side of Corey Lazarus there, but these cars are tough. Once you turn up in the east, they're usually all right.
The question will be is, how's the confidence from Lazarus? Is he still trying to feel that car out? Because if he is, he's not necessarily going to go for the biggest sand. That's not going to work. So, might just be a little patient. Feel the car out some more. The battle pack further down for 10th spot, still not going away, as is our battle pack for 3rd spot on the road. Simmons still controls the spot. McCartan's managed to make a touch of time, but it's only a touch. Ewan Baker's still trying to line up and have a go at Connor Brody. He's closer than he has been for a couple laps as Ewan Baker now. So this will present an opportunity, particularly if he can get a toe.
All right, let's see then. It just looks like the run through turn 4, just not quite with Baker there. He lost a little time there on the way out of the turn, but he'll pick up the slipstream and get ever closer on the way up to the hairpin. There was shades of a potential defense there from Connor Brody, but the door is left wide open for Baker to get up the inside. All of the lock on the wheel, and Ewan Baker is through, but Brody still has a tiny bit of overlap. Baker's going to have to compromise this line through this flat-out kink, and Connor might have a chance here at turn 7. The space is left there, but Brody's not going to take it.
Yep, so he's just going to be a little bit more patient. And the thing from Connor Brody is, I think he looked at that hairpin and went, oh, he's not going to send it down here. Oh, I don't need to cover that one. Well, he did need to cover it. How good was Ewan Baker on the brakes on lap number 19 on the run to the Spitzkare hairpin?
Oh, Hamish Cleland has had a bit of an issue we're just hearing. He's lost like 3 spots, and he looks like he ran wide coming out of the Mercedes grandstand section. And so now he's all the way back to 15th.
Yeah, indeed he is. He's trying to cover from Tyler Williams, so he did manage to get that job done on Williams. Simpson has lost a spot. I tell you what, Cameron Dance has lost a spot to Taylor Mitchell as well, so Mitchell's going to manage to pick that one off of Dance. So a couple of swaps of position now in the field.
Yeah, plenty of swaps going on here, and it looks like Dance is even further behind Mitchell than he was when we last checked in on him when he was behind. So something evidently going quite wrong for Dance there. But the battle for the top 10 is well and truly on. We have 6 cars involved in this fight, and it's magnificent. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead looks like Corey Lazarus is still keeping Antal Sabo very honest. Hugo Allen just minding his own business, a lap down, setting fastest laps, but it looks like Lazarus hasn't been dropped by Sabo just yet. The gap is all right. It's about 4-5 tenths of a second at the moment, but Sabo's definitely have to work for this.
Yeah, he's certainly going to. Lazarus doesn't look like he's lost any confidence, so damage might be superficial, if there is any at all. Continues to try and just maintain that proximity to Sabo. Same thing has happened in race number 1. Hugo Allen made a mistake. Sabo came on through on the final lap of the race and ended up with the race win. Sorry, second to last lap of the race. So for the meantime, Sabo's got the lead. Going to try and hang on to this one. Simmons now, this is the battle for 3rd place on the road. And Stefan McCartan is definitely a lot closer than he was the last time we checked in.
Yeah, McCartan's last lap was about 1.5 tenths faster than Xavier Simmons, so he's keeping an eye on the slipstream. He's turning in at all the right places. Of the places that we're looking at, Mitchell, Dance and Williams still the biggest position gainers in this whole field, but let's see what Simmons can do to try and hold back Stefan McCartan, who's looking for a good result here. Potential podium on the cards. Rounds him up just a little bit here into the braking zone. Ewan Baker and Connor Brody behind will be watching on intently, waiting for this battle to explode. The moment you see cars start to run side by side, that's where you can gain time on them.
And the big thing is, McCartan is right there, right amongst it. He's going to show the nose to the inside. He is going to get down the inside. Does he get the car pulled up? He does. Simmons runs a little bit wide. Just could not get the front end of the car to tip into the corner. So it's going to be McCartan through to 3rd place. Ewan Baker now is going to say he might just have a crack at Xavier Simmons. So these going to keep going, stoushing quite stiffly here, Reese, and Baker will buy into it as well.
He certainly will. McCartan nailing the exit of the stadium corner there. And I think he might just be able to keep this position for the time being. But now that Simmons has lost a position, he is vulnerable. He's got 2 more cars behind him looking to make up places. They would have seen what McCartan did, and they'll be trying to replicate that. Now Simmons has to focus with his eyes forward. He needs to try and follow McCartan closely. The more he does that, the less of a chance he'll be under attack from Baker and Brody. But Connor Brody going very deep into turn 2 there. I don't think he quite intended to do that. Loses out a tiny bit.
Still gets a reasonable run out of the corner, so he's just deep when they got down to turn number 2. But yeah, he still managed to hang on and maintain the draft, which is going to be his saving grace. James Jordan now has just dropped out of that one as well and starting to drop back into the clutches of his twin brother. And we keep our eyes on the heavens as well. Lap 22 of 27.
Oh, here comes Lazarus. Oh, there's no space there. But he makes the space. And Antal Szabo cannot find his way back past. What a move.
And again, showing that get aggressive. You might just get it respected. Sabo's going to try and have a go back at him as they come back into the stadium section as well. Very difficult to get a move done here.
Oh, no! Round they go! Lazarus in the wall!
And he'll hope that the car is all okay. And what does Szabo do? He does manage to recover the car. He's come back out in second spot, so he does still manage to hang on to the spot. And what is Szabo going to do, and how bent is the race car from Lazarus?
That's the big question. Looks like as he keeps on going, Lazarus seems to have escaped too much damage, but the story will be told in his lap times. A little bit of rear end damage from him, and that's just a consequence, I think, of you know, trying to run side by side on the exit of that corner. As we go to the Speednation replay, we'll have another look at that. So Lazarus trying to protect the inside. Szabo swings around the outside. There's contact at the exit. I mean, you can't expect Lazarus to go anywhere else. He committed to the corner. He was narrow on entry. He would have washed wide on the exit. Unfortunately, Szabo was right there in the space that he needed.
Yeah, that's just racing, unfortunately. So it'll be with the stewards, and they will have a look at it, because of course you need to have a look at these sorts of things. You don't just let that one go. For a race lead, a race victory, very, very important. McCartan now starting to close in. So McCartan's managed to make the overtake on Xavier Simmons at the same time as well. So he is starting to really harass and look forward to Stefan McCartan. This could be an opportunity for him to move his way up in a second spot.
Yeah, this is a big opportunity for McCartan. He managed to get the podium position off Simmons and now has a big fight on his hands with a potentially damaged Corey Lazarus. There's definitely some visual damage on the rear there. We don't know how it's affected the suspension or the drivetrain. Regardless, Lazarus will be rattled and McCartan will need to take advantage.
Opportunity is going to present itself, and then the rains, they just might start at the back end of this race. We're expecting potential for rain any time from now. So now we're just going to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it's on the verge.
My head Reese is Hamish Cleland has been forced to redress behind Mandela Pluck and has now done so. So an incident between those two has now been sorted.
Oh dear! Oh dear, that's Simmons. Oh no, that's taken James Jordan there. And wow, that's massive. Xavier Simmons will definitely be out of this one. The front suspension is completely gone. Front right off the car. My goodness.
Yeah, he's just going to have to sit and wait at the moment. I think it was Pepperell was the next car through that might have collected him.
Looks like, unfortunately, that was Simmons making a mistake all on his own. Just ran wide out of turn 1 over the curb and it unsettled the car.
Ewan Baker's going to go through on Connor Brody and go and take that incident. And will not trigger a safety car either.
Wow. You got to feel for Xavier Simmons. He was driving so well and ultimately just came down to that minor mistake. Once again, have another look at it. We only caught the tail end of it on the live pictures, but yeah, Scott, this is what happens when you run wide at turn 1. Great avoiding action by Baker, I have to say.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Jordan was just there at the wrong place at the wrong time. Xavier Simmons, he was on for such a strong result. And the difficulty with the curbing here is it's gutter curbing. There is a gutter, there is a drainage ditch effectively in the middle of the curb. There's a gap in it. So I think that's what's happened is effectively there's a chunk of the tyre that just wasn't pressing into the surface, Reese.
Yeah, looks like it, but have a look at the view out here from Corey Lazarus. What's that on the windscreen? The rain has arrived, but how much will that affect the grip on the circuit? It's only a light drizzle at the moment, and the track is still classified as dry according to the sim. So I don't think we're going to be seeing much of a pace drop off from the drivers, but they will be aware that they might have to start driving a bit more carefully.
Well, I mean, think about Sabo. How does he manage this? Because he is the guy that's out there making all the attempts to drive. He's got a margin of 5.5 seconds. He's got margin to work with. Does he just back the pace down, make sure that he just looks after it? He's got to be careful. I tell you what, these are low grip cars. They move around a fair way in the dry. So the wet weather, already I can hear him. He's lifting a lot more. He's having to manage the throttle. It's not treacherous, but it's just now becomes a touch more difficult, the wet weather conditions.
Yeah, and you're seeing there's I thought for a second that was a little bit of spray off Corey Lazarus. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm not seeing much of it from other cars, but yeah, there is actually some standing water on the circuit now, so we'll see. It's now mostly dry in the sim, so well, 2 laps to go for Antal Szabo, and he ran a little bit wide out of the final corner. The grip levels are starting to change. By this point in the race, you have to stay on the dry tyres to the end. You're just going to cost yourself too much time if you pit for wets. So now the challenge is on for Antal.
It's 2 laps. That's all they've got to get through. That's all they're going to navigate. And the most treacherous spot is also where the rain hits. It's turn 1. You're all over the curbs. You do not want to be touching painted lines. The reason for that, paint is slipperier than the asphalt. It fills in the gaps in between all the stones. That's where the water goes and hides. When there's just a little bit of water like there is right now, it'll sit right on top of the paint. It'll sink into the asphalt because there's enough gap. There's still room for the tyre to bite. That's why you stay off the curbing.
Yeah, exactly. So Antal will be able to mount the curbs a little better. And yeah, it's really coming down now, isn't it? The whole circuit is shrouded in that rain. And this is about the section where you start to see the spray coming off the tires. In some corners, it doesn't look too bad, but once Antal gets into the twisty bits here at the end of the lap, he's going to have one heck of a final lap to negotiate.
I just saw Connor Brody just picked up the throttle, just slid through the Mercedes Arena section of the course as well, all up and over the curve. She's being brave. These guys are all being brave. They've got enough grip for now, but if those tyre pressures, they have a tyre pressure display in the dash. I don't think they get temperatures, but they do get pressures in the Porsche Cup car. It does have a pressure. And when you see those pressures start to dip, that sort of tells you, hey, we're on the transition point here. We're starting to lose tyre temperature. We're losing pressure. That's grip loss. That'll tell them how to drive the car. That's sort of the only warning that they've got of what the conditions are kind of like. That and what they can feel through the wheel.
Well, the final lap has begun for Antal Szabo, and he's through the most treacherous part of the circuit now for rain, but still has to try and negotiate those final corners one more time. He's actually increased the lead over Corey Lazarus. It now sits at over 6 seconds. So I think all he has to do is bring it home from here. This is the greatest margin for victory that we've seen so far in this tournament. Question is, can McCartan get past Lazarus for second place? Looks like Lazarus did lose a bit of pace shortly after that contact, but he's gotten right back on it. Now he just needs to be very careful not to let McCartan into his clutches.
Well, how hard do you push? It's the last lap of the race. You've got the margin that you've got on the screen. You know what you're looking at. You know the numbers that you're sort of tinkering with. How hard do you push? Because the conditions, they're getting worse. The rain continues to come down. Last time by for these guys, high 41s. And indeed for Lazarus was into the 42, so we've lost a second in terms of lap time. So it's definitely lower grip. Into the arena section for the final time. And Szabo's got the lead. But remember, we saw Vettel go off here a number of years ago whilst he had the race lead in Formula 1 behind the wheel of a Ferrari. How much he cursed himself. Lazarus just went deep. Lazarus just went really deep at the hairpin. Nearly went off the circuit.
Oh, very close indeed, but it looks like he's just going to hold on to it as Antal Szabo is going to hold on for a double victory here today. What a magnificent drive from the 92. Lazarus will come home in second. No big moves in the top 5 there. They were just holding on to the end.
Yep, that's how it plays out up there. You've got the positions, you don't want to take too much risk. They all drove through about the same pace. Final lap times into the 43, so they dumped another second on that final lap of the race too, Reese, as well. Jordan's going to get home in 8th spot, but I think there's some damage to the 24 car. Pepperell got home ahead of him. Cam Dancel got home in 9th, so I think he's picked up a spot as well. It would have been Simmons, sorry, that dropped off the circuit. And all the issues that Xavier Simmons had, but that just spiced things up at the tail end of the race and just added a little bit of drama that I'm sure your championship contenders would have preferred to be without.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that top 10, with quite a bit of space between a few cars, but that just goes to show how tough that race was. Szabo and Lazarus battling so hard over the lead, and it ultimately came to fisticuffs in the end. Tyler Williams come home in 11th place with Rob Henry in 12th. Bradley, Partridge and Sproul just behind. Only a couple of tenths between Partridge and Sproul there. And all the way back down to 20th, Hayden Kirk managing to grab himself a couple of positions there to finish in 21st place, with now the attrition level here from Hugo Allen and Xavier Simmons, as well as Corey Croson, who was unable to make it even a few laps into the race. Well, that will conclude the racing portion of the night, Scott, and a very intriguing round here from the Hockenheim Ring.
Yeah, challenging. A lot of overtaking happened across the course of the night. Racing quality was very, very good. And don't forget, we're heading to Phillip Island next week as well. This will give a reasonable form guide as we head into Phillip Island, but at the same time, it's a different style of racing. You know, a lot more fast, a lot more flowing. And it's about setting up the draft, setting up the positions. You've got to be brave to get the spot down into turn number 1. And could you imagine if we add some rain at Phillip Island? That would just spice things up. The ability to just fall off the island. It's always the risk. You challenge yourself, you drive the thing to the limits. That's the only way you got to be if you want to be HyperFibre fast, Reese.
Indeed, HyperFibre fast at the top of the standings for Antal Szabo. He'll retain that championship lead and goes out to 4 points over Lazarus, who, regardless of any issues between himself and Szabo on track, still had a brilliant round. McCartan will shift himself into 3rd spot in the standings with that fantastic podium in race 2. Hugo Allen unfortunately falling to 5th after losing connection midway through race 2 there, so he's got a lot of fighting to do at the remaining 2 rounds of the tournament.
Yeah, he'll have to pick himself up and try and charge his way back through is sort of the only way that he can really do with that one. And, you know, there's a few drivers that are sort of a little bit down the standings that you look at and you go, they should be a little bit higher. Xavier Simmons is another one of those drivers that you look at and go, gee, he was on for a good night in terms of points tonight. It just didn't go that way at the tail end, and he's only got himself to blame. Cleland's been in and around. He ran strong feature race last week. Not so this week. He got tagged at turn 1 and just sort of was in recovery mode. Rob Henry led us away and led a number of laps here tonight as well. And then you just get down through to the tail end of the field as well. Drivers back there struggling to put some points together. Could have been a tricky race 1, could have been a tricky race number 2. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get the opportunity to chat to Stefan McCartan, tonight's driver who finishes in 3rd spot in the 2nd race. And the conditions in race number 2 there, Stefan, at the tail end of things, pace dropped off by about 2.5 seconds over those last couple of laps. That rain just added to the drama at the very end.
Oh, absolutely. Especially the sort of last lap in the stadium section, where you got all the undulations and camber of sort of the mini carousel. Yeah, she was pretty slick.
Yeah, Corey Lazarus just about ran off the road right ahead of you as well. We're just wondering if you might have been able to pull that one off. Challenging night here. In terms of things, we sort of spoken to you both weeks now. You've had one great race and one average race and races that you sort of want to forget, but you're starting to sort of build the points together. I think that's the big key as we head to Phillip Island next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it made a bit of a shambles of race 2 last week with a noob lock up on lap 1 with cold tires. But points tally's going good. Obviously a bit unfortunate there for Hugo. In the second race, he losing a bunch of points with his internet dropout. But obviously it favours everyone else, so hopefully that'll boost me up a position there. And I think with the results tonight, I go equal with Ewan and jump in front of Xavier. So good round. Enduro format at probably my weakest track next week, Phillip Island. So we'll see how it goes.
Mate, that'll be nice and challenging for us next week. However, floor is all yours. Give a thank you to all the sponsors and everyone you'd like to say thanks to.
Yeah, thanks to the team sponsors, Blackout Electrical Solutions, Simrigs, Shunt Scenery, DSM Painting Decorating, Palmerston Bakery, Simblack in New Zealand, and just a shout out to Supercars New Zealand for voting me as their one of their candidates. And obviously shout out to all their sponsors, Nappers, MRX, DSA, and Wearcraft.
Mate, congratulations on third place from race number 2 here tonight, and congratulations on another solid round.
Cheers, guys.
Reese is going to take one step further forward in terms of our podium standings. He'll be chatting to the driver who finished second in race number 2, finished third from race number 1.
Yep, good results for you tonight, Corey, but ultimately didn't quite come easy. What was your view on that contact between yourself and Antal?
Oh, a little bit difficult, I think. I was just on the natural racing line, full throttle. The car just naturally gets, from the apex to the outer track limits, and it looked like the contact was made on, the very, very, very far left quarter panel of the car behind my rear wheel. It was very unfortunate because it was a tremendous fun race. I had immense fun with Mantel there. It was a bit of a bummer, to be fair, because it would have been good to go down to the wire. It's one of those things, and we'll leave it with the stewards, I think.
Yeah, good to see that you're coming out of it with a good spirit there. It was a great battle with Antel all the way through, and the rain coming at the very end as well spiced things up a bit. You went a bit deep in the stadium corner on the very last lap. How did the grip feel out there?
It was evaporating lap by lap, and that was quite a moment actually. We released the brake just as it started to lock, luckily, and then re-braked again and it managed to pull up. But that could have easily been in the sand trap. It was probably would have made it very spicy if it had come 2 or 3 laps earlier, that's for sure.
Yeah, indeed. Well, regardless of the difficulties that you faced in race 2, still coming away with a third and a second. You are second in the championship, only 4 points behind Antal. Coming into the endurance round at Phillip Island, it's going to take a bit of a shift of perspective, I think, for round 3, having one single 75-minute race to negotiate.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a tyre conserving race. Around there, it is such a good track. I love Phillip Island. I love driving it. Can't wait to get there. Can't wait to start practicing. And then on the final round of the championship also, I love that track very much as well. So it's going to be interesting. The last 2 rounds, thoroughly enjoying it so far. And can't wait to dig in and have a real crack at it.
Yeah, we can't wait either, Corey. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I have to thank VRA for giving me the opportunity to get the quali rounds, being their representative and going straight through to the finals. Then I've got, all the boys behind the scene at Blackout OPR. The support and the testing we all do together is fantastic. And of course my wife putting up with me being on the sim as my second marriage.
Indeed. Well, Corey, thanks very much for joining us. Hopefully we get a chance to chat to you after Phillip Island.
Hope so, guys. Thank you very much.
Corey Lazarus putting on a great drive here today. And finally, Scott, we have our Speednation round winner, Antal Sabo, joining us.
Mate, congratulations, Antal Sabo. Tricky race number 2, not the least because of the weather, but the battling there back and forth with Corey Lazarus as well. Little bit of paint traded, but look, that's touring car racing. You got to be able to handle the contact sometimes. You went a little bit narrow coming into the stadium section, drifted up and across you. I just think it's just 2 drivers racing incredibly hard for the same bit of real estate.
I want a bit of a bourbon after that. That was a lot of stress on the good old. Man, that was a lot of racing there. I had to stop and just sort of go through the race because there was so much happening. I kind of forgot what happened. Yeah, it was a lot of fighting, a lot of hard work to keep the pace up. For whatever reason, I don't know, I struggled so much with this car around this track with the understeer and oversteer. It looks like I was not able to hold on to my tires, my fronts or rears. I'd either get understeer or either get oversteer. Just probably poor management on my end. I was hoping for rain a little bit earlier because I feel like I got quite a bit of pace when the rain did kick in. I was able to pull a bit more of a gap, so it looked like it suited me a little bit. It's a bummer it didn't come too early, or a little bit earlier, but that's the way it is. Can't predict the weather. But it was nonetheless, it was still a lot of fun. I still have a lot of fun racing these guys. Everyone's super clean. We get a bit close, but hey, yeah, like you said, it's touring car racing. It's to be expected. Things happen, and hey, we move on.
In terms of things, talk us through the conditions in those last couple laps, because we were noting that the pace sort of fell off on that final lap by about 2.5 seconds. It's all of a sudden the grip was just looking like it was going away. I think if we'd have had to do one more lap, we would have been on the crossover point to sort of where the tires would have started to really go. It would have been just like driving on ice. The grip going away from you. How do you manage that in this car?
Didn't have to do it too aggressive in change of lines. It was actually not too bad. The main change that happened about 2 laps to go or 3 laps to go was at the stadium section, that carousel where we had to run a bit of a wider line. It just started, you would turn in and basically it just run you wide. So you had to really slow the car up and V it up a little bit rather than running the conventional line down bottom. And turn two was getting a little bit tricky. The hairpin was actually not too bad for me. Maybe it was because of the way I had my brake bias, but it felt relatively predictable. I feel like it would have gone a lot more hectic if we waited a bit, 1 or 2 more laps. We probably would have been on that crossover for the wets. But yeah, that's sort of how I was thinking. Just sort of try, feel it out, and see how it goes. Like I said, I didn't do too much running in the wet. I knew enough to sort of try predict it, but worked out in the end, I suppose.
Well, mate, 2 race wins from 2 here tonight. You've certainly mastered the conditions and mastered the Hockenheim ring. Who would you like to thank that makes it possible for you and the team?
I'd love to thank MRP Sim Racing for having me on, and IQ Security, good old IQ Security here, and yeah, that's it. That's about it from my end.
Hey, congratulations on taking the lead of the championship quite comfortably as we head into round number 3. Phillip Island next week, and we'll see you then.
Yes, thank you very much, team. Good night. Thanks all.
Well, congratulations to our race and round winner for Antal Sabo with 2 race victories. Hugo Allen was set to challenge him all the way, and an unforced error in race number 1 and internet dramas from race number 2 might have to invest in some HyperFibre internet to bring him forward. Reece, that's going to wrap us up from round number 2, but we set forth to look at the endurance round next week. Phillip Island's going to be a challenging old circuit, and the endurance round change of the format as well.
Yeah, indeed. We are going all the way over to the other side of the world and a bit closer to home for all you Kiwis out there across the Tasman Sea at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Super fast course here with some brilliant opportunities for slipstreaming. It's going to be a fast race, but like Corey Lazarus pointed out, tyre management is going to be a factor. It's going to be a single 75-minute race that is offering double points. So if drivers like Hugo Allen want to recover their chances in the championship, they have to go for a good finish there.
Yeah, going to have to be aggressive and see how much they can bank in terms of the race points. Well, if you're going to join us, it'll be next week. We'll be live from about 7:30 New Zealand Standard Time, so keep your eyes on that one. Keep your eyes out for everything that continues to progress as well. On behalf of Speednation, tonight's round sponsor, get involved in the giveaway. Post a picture of your sim racing rig, whether that's your controller, whether that's a fixed rig, and how you go racing. Post that on over to Facebook, tag Speednation, and don't forget to give the Speednation Facebook page a like. You can win yourself a $50 voucher and a gaming mat as well. Head on over to the social media page on Facebook.com/SpeednationNZ. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us for round number 2 of the New Zealand Esports HyperFibre League. On behalf of everyone behind the scenes, on behalf of our admin team, the sponsors, and the broadcast and production crew, we thank you for joining us for this week, and we'll see you next week for the next round of the New Zealand Esports HyperFibre League.